Every single chance the Carolina Panthers get, they disappoint us. Welcome to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson. The big news of the day, if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, or I don't know, maybe if you're just a fan of Schadenfreude, Bryce Young will not play in preseason game number 1. And depending on where you look, likely not going to play at all in any of the Carolina Panthers' 3 preseason games. So we go from mere days, 2 days away from seeing this Carolina Panthers team on the field to, nope, it's going to be a month before you get to see your full complement of Carolina Panthers players on the field. And this pisses me off. As a Carolina Panthers fan who is starved for anything that seems like good news, this just feels like a swift kick in the nuts 2 days prior to the Carolina Panthers' first preseason game. Tell me that I'm right. Tell me I'm right, Cole.
No, I'm not going to tell you you're right. Are you kidding me? There's no way you're right on this one. Listen, you want him to go out there and get hurt in the preseason?
It's preseason. Nobody gets hurt in the preseason.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood, Bryce.
It's good for me these desks aren't made of real wood.
Leave it to Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. By God, you say nobody gets hurt in the preseason. Dave Tepper says, hold my beer, literally. Here, you have it. I'm going to pour it on you. They absolutely are making the right decision. And I'll even go a step further, Diesel. They shouldn't play them any during the preseason.
I don't think they should play him any during the regular season while we're at it. Because Andy Dalton sure as hell looked better for the Carolina Panthers last year in his one opportunity to start for the team than Bryce Young ever did.
Listen, I do think that
it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
I think that I understand the aspects of wanting to get reps, but look at the rest of the league. I don't think anybody else is going to start Patrick Mahomes or anybody else early in the season. I just think there's way more risk than reward.
Well, Patrick Mahomes doesn't need reps in the preseason.
That's fair.
And
that's
most teams, let's be real. Most teams preseason game number 1 play their starters for what? 2 series, 3 series, maybe they play them for a quarter, then they let the backups in. And that diminishes as we get deeper and deeper into the preseason. But Bryce Young sucked in 2023. The offense sucked in 2023. Oh yeah, he's got a new center that he's going to be taking snaps from. They need as many reps as they can possibly get in as close to game simulating scenarios as they can get it. That's why you sit starters, because they're ready. They don't need preseason games to get ready. Bryce Young is in a new offense. Thank you, JD, for pointing that out on the stream. He's in a new offense with a new quarterback, new lines, new wide receivers. Yeah, no, we don't need to prepare for the season for that.
Let me ask you this.
Let's wait. Let's just wait and throw him out there in week number 1, completely unprepared.
If you throw Bryce Young out there in the preseason, especially in game 1, you don't have the starting offensive line intact. You don't have the receivers. You don't have the running backs. You don't have the tight ends. What do you gain? My point is, what do you gain by throwing them out there with a bunch of 2s and 3s when you're really not going to see anything then? And what are you going to gain from that?
You don't throw them out there with the 2s and 3s. You throw them out there in the 1s in the handful of series that the 1s get in the preseason. At least give Carolina Panthers that. I mean, that's just straight pulling the rug out from under us.
I think, well, you know what? I think the Panthers fans, while they do want to see Dave Canales and they do want to see a new offense, and I understand that. I get that part of it. Like, I do understand the fact of this is a new offense. However, the NFL, man, like, it is what now? 18 weeks? Feels like 18 years. I understand the side of the argument of wanting him to get reps. My point is, I think there will be plenty of time for him to get reps through training camp as well as in practice leading up to the season.
It's not the same. That's my ultimate point. It's not the same, and preseason is as close as it gets to being live, real football.
I just don't think I don't think you can risk putting the ones out there. And okay, if you put them out there for 1 or 2 drives, what do you gain from that? Let's say they're 3 and out in the first drive and they get 6 plays. So, okay, 9 plays. Are 9 plays enough to say, okay, now we see something that we didn't see before? I'm just guessing. I'm just looking at it from the coaching standpoint. I understand fans want to see them, but I'm just thinking sample size wise, what are 9 plays going to show us?
Well, if I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, now I'm completely checking out from the preseason. If I'm a fan, why am I watching the preseason if I know that nobody of any consequence whatsoever is going to be playing in these games?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, why even have the preseason? I understand as we go to 18 games, the NFLPA is probably going to try to reduce the number of preseason games from 3 down to 2 or down to even 1 or eliminate them altogether. I don't think they're going to eliminate them altogether because you still do need some kind of warm-up for the season. I mean, that's the reason why Alabama plays FCS games in week number 1. There's a reason why you play a nobody. What did Adam Sandler say in the second, what was the name of that movie that he remade, the football movie, where he said, yeah,
when you're talking about
every year we play some slack Division II team to start the season, get everybody's confidence up, kick the living crap out of them. That's what preseason games are for, is to get you used to playing longest yard. Thank you. In preseason situations, you get them playing in game situations, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just a few reps, a series or 2, something. I mean, that also shows you that, wow, you got a big problem on your hand. You know, when the rubber meets the road, Austin Corbett can't get you the ball, for example. Then wow, we better figure out our center position because we're not ready for this.
I understand your point and other fans who want to see him. I guess the way I look at it from a coaching perspective is if he's not out there with all of my bullets, all of my ammunition, all of my guys, if I'm not giving Bryce Young the plethora of weapons that he needs, then what's the point? I don't want
sit
him
him the whole season then. Why don't you?
Well, hopefully the plethora of weapons. I'm going to put quotes around the word weapons because we're using that term lightly. Hopefully they're ready by the regular season, including Xavier Legette. I just wouldn't want him to go. To Madcraft's point, I agree with Madcraft on the stream, on the YouTube stream. He says if he goes out there and has a few failed drives, his confidence might be questioned before the season even starts. I think that there's plenty of time for Bryce Young during the season to progress. And, I understand the point of Dave Canales, new offense. You want to get acclimated. I just don't know that it'll take as long. Listen, I don't know where he is mentally right now with the offense. He may already feel like he's in a good spot. And I understand what you mean in terms of getting game reps and live reps. That's very important. That's why I think spring games are important from the coaching staff perspective. I'm not disagreeing with you on the live reps. I just don't know that you can risk having a guy out there who is the only future piece of your franchise for a meaningless game.
Here's the problem with that, Cole. Week number 1, you're playing the Saints. You're playing somebody in your division.
Right.
You lose that game, you're already partially screwed on your season when it comes to you're behind the 8 ball in your division. Like, you can't screw around with this. That's where I'm trying to go. If you're the Carolina Panthers, you can't screw around with this. So what this tells me is, number 1, Bryce Young is not looking good in this system. Number 2, the offensive line sucks, and they're not ready, and they know they're not ready. So they're trying to keep Bryce Young from getting killed out there. I mean, this reeks of unpreparedness or fear. I can't tell which.
See, I don't think so. I think that if you asked, let's say 90% of the coaches in the NFL, they probably agree. I would even say 95% of them would agree that putting a guy out there in a second season for a couple of drives doesn't really benefit you. And JD asked me on the stream, he says 2 series will only be 9 plays. Well, it's the Panthers, I mean, 2 series could be 6 plays. I mean, if we want, or 1, 2, right? 2 interceptions. No, I just think that there's a lot of value in making sure that you said it, you open in conference, in division rather, when you go out there week 1, especially with guys like Legette, I don't want to risk any of my starters being unhealthy.
I think this sets up the 2024 Carolina Panthers with a bad precedent, especially when it comes to a franchise that, by God, needs fans as much as it can possibly get them, that did everything they could possibly do. Thanks a lot, Dave Tepper, dumbass Tepper. You did everything you could possibly do to alienate your fan base last year. And then what are you going to do now? You're going to take the main reason, the only thing outside of maybe 1 or 2 other pieces on this roster that fans are excited about, that still have a little bit of anticipation for, because they remember Bryce Young and this team only winning 2 games last year. They remember them only managing seemingly week after week after week to be able to score 1 touchdown, and that's it. Shut the offense down. Might as well just kick field goals from then on out. They know that this is the only thing people give a rip about when it comes to this team. And they say, yeah, no, we're not going to give you that. We're not going to give you any of the starters. We're not going to give you starting wide receivers. We're not going to give you anything. I mean,
but you know what, though? I would argue that when you look at the prominent franchises like the Patriots back in their heyday, they didn't give a rip about preseason games in terms of winning or putting the guys out there. I think from the coaching perspective, you want to see in those preseason games when you have to make that roster cut in 2 weeks.
I mean, I know what preseason games are for. Right. It's the last gasp opportunity for guys that are on the bubble to maybe show something and make the roster. I mean, we've seen guys who were projected to make the roster screw up in the preseason game and miss their roster spot because of it. We've seen guys who otherwise were not projected to be on the team make big plays and make the team, or stay on the practice squad and just not get cut outright because they did something big in the preseason. I understand what the preseason is for. It's a last gasp chance for those guys to show me something. But it's also your fan base's first chance to see these guys on the field and get a little good feeling to go into the season.
But what other franchise values preseason games for the fan base is my point. What other franchise says, you know what, we've got to sell this out and really get our attendance up and make sure our guys – I don't think –
30% attendance for most Carolina Panthers home games last year say that the Carolina Panthers damn well better value fan experience.
Well, in the regular season, they should for sure. In the regular season, I'm all for Bryce Young at some point getting reps, and he may. There's 3 games. Is that right? 3 regular,
3 preseason games.
So they have the Jets and the Bills.
How many of them are at home? I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Thanks a lot, Panthers.
1.
App. Good God.
1 game is at home.
How long is it going to take the Carolina Panthers app to launch? How about that?
You have to enter credentials and tell Dave Tepper. There's 1 game at home. The other 2 are at Gillette and at Highmark when they play the Bills on the 24th of this month.
Dave, are we getting a concert at halftime? Are you going to bring a concert to Charlotte? Is Taylor Swift going to do the halftime show? You couldn't get her there for the Eras Tour. Could you get her there for halftime of a preseason game? Holy crap, Panthers app.
It still won't load?
And now it just finally loaded.
30 seconds later, it loaded.
Jeez.
Patriots.
Can they get anything right? They're the Paul Feinbaum of NFL team apps.
You know why the app's not working? Everybody's on it. Don't you believe that? Don't you believe it? Everybody's on the app right now. It's overloaded, so it's slow on your end. Look, just imagine this. What if Bryce Young in the second drive has a defensive end from the right side come after him? He plants his foot wrong, and bam, ACL gone.
But couldn't you say that about game 1, game 2?
You could, but game 1 and game 2 and 3 matter though in terms of results, right?
Okay. Well, let's explore that for a second. Who is going to be playing in the preseason? And who could be backing up Bryce Young over the course of the season if that happens? Andy Dalton, he's not been practicing, he's not going to play. It's going to come down in the preseason to quarterbacks Jack Plummer and the recently signed Jake Luton. I don't know how, Luton, whatever it is. Either way, I've never heard of either one of these guys. I had to Google them to find out who they were because I'd never heard of either of these guys. Jack Plummer is a rookie out of Louisville. He's 24 years old, 6'5", 215.
Played at 3 different colleges.
He was good at a couple of those schools at Louisville and Cal. He threw for over 3,000 yards in his last 2 seasons at those schools. So he was good in college. But here's the problem. He's 6'5", 215. Does that sound anything at all like Bryce Young's body type? No, it doesn't. It sounds like Andy Dalton's body type.
Yeah.
This other guy, Jake Luton, he's also huge. He's 6'6", 225. Does that sound like Bryce Young's body type? No, it doesn't. It sounds like Andy Dalton's body type. So unfortunately, you weren't here. Lucky for you, you were out on vacation, but we had Anish Shroff on with us last Thursday from Clemson and Panthers Fan Fest.
Yeah.
And he said to me,
Anish. He's good.
Yeah, I love Anish. He said to me, alignment is key for the Carolina Panthers this year. We were talking about in the context of what's the alignment like inside the organization? Are we going to have position coaches going over Dave Canales' head to report directly to Dave Tepper? And he said, no, we're getting ourselves into alignment this year. Tell me what kind of alignment we have when you've got a 5'8". He's listed at 205. Don't believe you scouting report that he's 205. No way. A 5'10", 180-pound Bryce Young. And then everybody else around him playing the quarterback position is 6'5" or taller. Can't run the same offense that Bryce Young is running. The hell are they doing at Carolina? Like, that's when you have the guy that played quarterback for him 2 years ago when they actually were winning games. PJ Walker. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. PJ Walker.
He wasn't bad.
PJ Walker can back up Bryce Young. You know why? Because PJ Walker's skill set much more aligns with Bryce Young's skill set than these ogres running around out there at 6'5" or taller.
And you know what? I think to that point, I don't disagree with you there. I think that's probably something that's going to come and probably something that's going to have to take time. With it being Dave Canales' first year as a head coach, Andy Dalton, for as good as a backup as Andy Dalton is, because Andy Dalton's a good backup in the NFL. He was really good in Dallas. He's not a bad backup quarterback. He was a good starter for a while. Wasn't elite, but he was good. Andy Dalton may not be part of Dave Canales' long-term plan. He may be there because he was on the roster, and you mentioned it yesterday. He played a few times last year and played pretty good, right? I just think that eventually you got to give Dave Canales time to get the right guys on the roster. Listen, The reality of it is, I agree with you on the backup quarterback part and wanting to keep the offense similar. The Ravens do something very similar to that, but those guys are hard to find. Like give Dave Canales, in my opinion, you got to give him a year or two to go find a backup. If Bryce is the guy, number one, if you stick with him. If Bryce is the guy, you got to go find somebody that can run that same offense. I don't know. The reality of it is none of us really know how Bryce Young and Andy Dalton will differ or what similarities they'll have in this new Dave Canales offense. They may be able to both run it. I don't know. I am intrigued. Back to the original conversation, I am intrigued to see it. I understand that preseason games, like you said a minute ago, are for the guys who are trying to make the roster. While I am intrigued to see it, I do think they're making the right decision here. And if it were me, as I said, I'd hold them out completely. But at most 2 drives. But I think for right now, Andy Dalton's he's a good backup.
Yeah, I just think Bryce Young and Dave Canales and this team owe the fans after that bleep show that they had last year. Can we just get a little bit of this?
Just step out of the shop before every game. You wave your little hat in the air, you give the people a thrill.
That's all I want. Step off the sideline, you wave your little hat in the air and give people a thrill.
Well, let me tell you, Diesel, do you not believe that they're going to give people the thrill week 1 in New Orleans when they go
they're
there
gonna
and
give
beat
people
them?
the business.
No, they're going to go beat New Orleans week 1.
Ron Cherry, thank you very much, Ron Cherry.
They're going to beat New Orleans, and they're going to show out, and you're going to have to eat your words and apologize to
You don't even believe that. I know you're a Derek Carr hater. That's why you're saying these words. But I know you don't believe.
I'm trying to at least pull for him.
You can't see. You can't say it with a straight face.
All right, let me try again. I can't do it. You're right. I think they have a shot. And again, that's still a month and 2 days away. And it is a very important game, as you noted, with it being a division game. It's just interesting when you look at the preseason. And you know what else? Another thing, I think it's interesting. We don't talk to a lot of NFL coaches because it's hard to get them, right? I know y'all had Dave Canales on when he got the job. I would go out on a limb and bet, Diesel, that every coach has the same philosophy on preseason, but they might have different tweaks to it. Like, I don't think anybody says, hey, let's go start everybody during the preseason. That'd be dumb. But this coach may believe this while Bill Belichick believes this. And it would be interesting to hear what Dave Canales' opinion on how he operates and what his philosophy is on the preseason, because the reality of it is, to your point, if it hurts the team, then you'd be right. If they come out and Bryce Young already has the offense and they light it up and go beat New Orleans, then nobody's going to be talking about the preseason. However, if they do struggle and Bryce doesn't look himself, then you could back up and say, well, if they'd have played him more in the preseason, maybe he'll look better, right?
Well, that's
the fear.
I just think game 1 is too important to put him out there completely cold with no reps in a game situation whatsoever. You're arguing the other side of that. Game 1 is so important. You can't afford to potentially get him hurt in the preseason. I'm saying they can't afford to have him not ready for week 1 in the preseason.
978 on the text line says, with you guys talking NFL to start the show, do either of you play fantasy football? And if so, are there any rookie running back or wide receivers you like this season? We might, Diesel, just need to get a Tolo fantasy league for this year. We hadn't talked about it yet.
Texter, no, I do not play fantasy football. I got too many other things going on. I got too many other interests going on in my life. And I know myself. I've seen the show, The League. If you've ever seen the show, The League, is based around fantasy football. I would become those guys. And I've got too many other things going on in my life.
Yeah,
I would not have time.
Here's the deal. The last few years, I haven't. I have not played the last few years. However, if the Tolos want to, and you can let us know, 71307, start your text with the word fan, as well as on the stream, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're live on every day. If you want, I will do a Tolo edition fantasy football league just for us, just for our Tolos, just for our listeners. I think we'd have a pretty good attendance. I know you can set how many teams you want to have in it, but we haven't talked about it yet. You let us know. If not, we won't do it. We'll say screw it, right? But
I would be that guy, Cole, that like sets my roster in week 1 and then never touches it.
Forget it.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Auto draft, baby.
Auto draft, Diesel. week 3, you ask him, hey, Diesel, who's your quarterback? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I got 6 kickers.
Snake draft went auto, and Diesel has no idea who he has on his team.
I'd probably still win the thing.
You might. You never know. It's a lot of luck sometimes. It's a lot of luck. Dexter says, I play fantasy football when I'm on the toilet. It's my poop game. Won some money last year, too.
I do most of my show prep when I'm on the toilet. You want me to be less prepared for this show because I'm busy doing a stinker tinker? No, you don't.
Look at the honesty coming out all of a sudden. Look at the honesty. All right, coming up next, Brett Favre had some really intriguing audio on what age kids should start playing tackle football. This is a topic that Diesel and I have not got into yet, but I want to hear your thoughts. We'll get into it next right here on the Fan Upstate. Look at our Tolos taking initiative and getting right on it already in the chat. If you did not know, if you have not heard, Wire to Wire live every single day, you can watch the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. JD's already said, hey, we'll do a Tolo league, but we have to know how many people want to play so we have the right amount of teams. So I'm in, JD's in, Brian's in. We've got 3 already. If you want to play and join the, Wire to Wire Fantasy League, it just happened. It just spawned. Is that what they say, Diesel? It spawned out of nowhere.
It is completely organic.
Organic. I like it. I like it. That's what we do right here on Wire to Wire. Speaking of organic, there's nothing more organic than flag football. I mean, because everybody loves flag football, right? I mean, it's just the most manly thing in the world. It teaches so many fundamental. I'm kidding. I don't have any distaste for flag football. However, I heard this piece of audio from Brett Favre, and I want your reaction, Diesel, reaction from our Tolos, our audience, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. This is something that you and I haven't talked about yet on Wire to Wire, but is there a certain age that kids should start playing tackle football? Locally, we've seen big school districts in Spartanburg County, and I'm not as well versed on Greenville County because I live in Spartanburg, Diesel, but we've seen a lot of local Spartanburg County recreation youth leagues that are school leagues go to flag football within the last 5 years. Here's what Brett Favre had to say about when kids should start playing tackle football and the amount of concussions that he had.
No kid should be playing tackle football.
What's a kid?
Well, when I talked I had a conversation with Dr. Benjamin Amalu we had a phone conversation many years ago. But he asked me the question, how many concussions did I have? And I said, I think 3 or 4. Where I didn't remember at the time, but where I blacked out, lost track of, what happened. And he said, how about 1,000 or thousands? And I thought, this guy's crazy. I said, no, I didn't have that many. He said, how many times did you hit the turf or get tackled and your ears were ringing or you saw stars?
Most plays.
I said, pretty much every time I got tackled. And he said, that's a concussion.
Concussion.
I said, so when do you think it's safe to play tackle football? He said, never.
Never.
Goodbye, football.
I just go ahead and cancel it.
Goodbye.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Cole, there's a lot of things we do in this country that aren't good for us, and we know it. Like, we know that cigarettes are bad for us, yet a lot of people smoke. We know that vaping is bad for us, yet a lot of people do it. We know that drinking alcohol is bad for us. We know that talking to loose women is bad for us, but a lot of people do it. So, sorry, Brett Favre. I understand where you're coming from. We all know that football, or it's not Brett Favre. It's not Brett Favre's fault. It's the doctor.
Sure.
We all know that getting tackled is not good for us. But when there's millions and millions, generational money on the line, people are going to do it.
No, I agree with that. What age, though, and I would be interested to hear from our audience if they have had kids or experiences or stories about this with CT and concussions and all of the things that come with it. Because I find it fascinating that school districts are starting to go to flag football up until, and Artolos may correct me on this, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's like up until middle school in some school districts, Diesel, where you're playing flag football all the way until middle school. And again, our text line 71307, start your text with the word fan. Phone lines are open as well, 844-326-3663. Is that a little too much in terms of having them play flag football? Because I do understand the aspect of wanting them to learn the fundamentals and not just go tackle it. I do get that, but I guess it's hard to nail down what age is the right age.
Well, you could look at it potentially at a human development standpoint to say that the human brain is not fully developed until we're 20, 25 years old, right? That's science.
And mine's still not.
Yeah, well, exactly. Some of us just never quite get there. We're called late bloomers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I mean, isn't it a scary thought to say not until you're 25 can you play tackle football?
That's real.
I mean,
scary,
that
right?
is scary. I mean, and then again, like if you're that age, are you physically developed enough to handle being hit? Because there's that old adage of being in game shape where you're used to getting hit. Because think about half of these even minor hits that happen in the NFL and in college football, every play would put us in traction for a week. And these guys just hop right back up and do it again and again and again and again.
And that's what's scary, right?
Right.
To Brett Favre's point, and I don't know if I'm not a doctor. Never have been, don't plan to be.
I don't even know any doctors.
Yeah, we're not even in the same circles. I don't know if that's true, what Brett Favre said about every time you see stars, because somebody said, I saw him every time I got up, got hit, saw stars, right? I don't know if that's true. Or I don't know if that really means you had a concussion, but I do think that concussions probably happen a lot more than we think.
Well, look, concussions and CTE, that's still a relatively new point of study. We've known about guys getting rocked in the NFL. We knew it all the way back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, right? But we didn't really think about it or honestly care about it until 10 years ago when we really started focusing on CTE.
Yeah, it hadn't been long.
We're seeing how these players' brains are developing long after they finish playing, and it's a terrifying thing. It really is. I mean, you see just how messed up some of these guys are late in their lives. And that's what they were just talking about, brain development and brain damage there. Just think about joint damage and hip damage and soft tissue damage and all this stuff that can add up over the course of a career. But that's why these guys go out and play. They go out and play for the love of the game. That's why they start. And then they keep playing because they realize, oh, I can set up my family with generational wealth. I can put millions of dollars in a bank account for my family so that 5-6 generations from now, my family is financially set up.
No, I get that. I mean, listen, I don't blame them. I do the same thing, right? And Texter 978 says, having had 2 kids play youth football, I personally think 5th/6th grade is the time to start. This gives them time to learn before you get in. Let me see if there's any more of the text. Get into middle school. I think that's where some of the leagues are cutting it off now, is around that middle school mark. That's when they're starting, rather.
I do wonder, Cole, if we're going to start seeing those goofy padded helmet shells on more helmets, later, playing through middle school football and even into high school football.
I don't know that I'd hate that.
I mean, even if you only put those caps on somebody who's already had a concussion, like if the rule was if you've had a concussion in the past year, you have to wear one of these caps, and you could paint them up or dye the material on them enough so that it really doesn't look as goofy as it does when it's just the plain, gray one or white one over the helmet.
I'll give you a good example. Last football season, there was a kid for Gaffney in a preseason jamboree about this time of year, got a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
Out for the season, had to wear sunglasses for the next 2 months in school, messed him up bad. And we're talking about a junior in high school. So I don't want to say it doesn't matter. Don't hear me say it doesn't matter, because kids are going to get concussions regardless. But I do think when you start getting older and you have harder tackles and guys who are hitting harder and faster players, that's obviously when the concussion rates spike. I don't know how many concussions are happening, though, at a lower age.
Your brain, your body can develop to take impact, right? You can get bigger. You can put on more weight. You can put on more muscle. You can learn technique that, can glance contact off of you. But your brain and your skull and the fluid that it's floating around in can't develop and protect itself from further hits. It just can't, right? So
that's true.
It's
tough, though.
The answer is something none of us like and none of us are going to go for, which is stop playing football altogether.
Right.
Because honestly, it's a genuinely dumb idea to play football, because it's like getting behind the wheel of a car with no doors and no seatbelt on and playing bumper cars.
Shane Barrett asked on the stream, did you eat a lot of paint chips as a kid, Cole? I mean, last week. No, I'm kidding. Let's see. Matt Kraft says, you don't produce players like Ed Reed if you don't start playing as a young kid. That's just an unfortunate truth. And yeah, I mean, I agree. Ed Reed was maybe a little high on that spectrum in terms of violence on the field. He was a different dude. I mean, he was a different animal, Ed Reed was. But JD says, one of my scariest moments was on an inner tube on Lake Bowen, and I caught a knee to the temple, definitely concussed. Well, never done that, but I would say, yeah, you probably were. Probably
Madcraft says, I'd rather just design a new helmet. These helmets are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger
Were we
with
not
more
talking
padding.
about that? I thought that a couple of months ago, you and I talked about, was it a college or somebody was already wearing those helmets?
Well, look, I mean, we've seen helmet design. Helmet design has always changed, right? It changed from being basically just a hard plastic shell with one bar down the middle and two bars across the mouth to now it's a full face mask. And then there's the ones that have that little crush panel right on the top of the head that can kind of sink in a little bit. The padding on the inside has changed. It's gone from just basic cotton cloth padding to air padding and all that stuff. And you'd have to find somebody who really knows sports science and equipment design. And the answer, Madcraft, is maybe there's not a helmet that can protect against all this kind of stuff. He's saying I just design a new helmet that's going to be what, 1% better than the current helmet that we have.
That's all you can do.
Like what else can you do to eliminate impacts? The problem is not the helmet. The problem is that you've got a guy who's 6'8", 300 pounds,
running a 4.4,
blindsiding you and hitting you in the side where your neck goes this way and your head slings that way, and then you hit the ground at full force. That's the problem.
Well, I agree.
It's not a poor helmet design.
There's
problem.
no ultimate fix. I don't think. Maybe one day, Diesel, I'm wrong in that, and there is an ultimate. I don't think right now there's an ultimate fix. Yeah, helmets can get better. You can continue to design the helmet safe. And I know they have a really, at the NFL level, the helmets they use are really designed.
Best of the best.
That's right. It's the best of the best.
He says design the helmet with the padded covering on the inside, not the outside. Madcraft, they already have that. They already have padding on the inside.
Yeah.
The padding on the outside is supposed to be additional help.
But the padding on the outside, real quick before we hit a break.
Eventually they're going to look like Darth Helmet from Spaceballs.
I'm pretty sure that somewhere there's a league that players are already starting to wear the padding on the outside in real games because of the risk associated with not. And to your point, maybe if you already had a concussion, you should start to do so. Real quick, before we run, I have had several people text in on the text line, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. If you want to join, we will create a fantasy league for Wire to Wire. Text in. I'm going to put your number down as well as your name. So I've already had like 4 or 5 on the text line. And JD, tell me if I'm missing something. If I have to have their email, you might have to text your email in. We'll get that from JD, who's kind of helping us organize it. We're doing it on the fly. We just decided in the very last segment we'll do a fantasy league for Wire to Wire to, see who's the best at fantasy football.
Cole, if we keep adding padding and padding and padding to the inside of these helmets and make them bigger and bigger, that's where we're headed.
I'm for that.
We're headed to Darth Helmet in Spaceballs, where the size of his helmet literally goes edge of shoulder pad to edge of shoulder pad. It would look completely stupid.
It would.
It would look stupid. When we come back, Cole, I'm going to argue something that I think a lot of our Tolos are going to push back on in a big way. A big change that I think should come to college football that I think ultimately is coming no matter what we do. So let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and do it now. We'll get to that next. When players become paid employees of their universities in 2025, 2026, they should, and I believe will, sue the NCAA to get out of any and all academic requirements related to their student-athlete experience.
I like it.
I 100% believe that it should happen. I believe that it'll make college football in a bubble better. Because, I mean, you don't care. You don't care when they start showing those early game graphics that say, hey, this is wide receiver so-and-so. He's a business major. This is the tight end. He's a finance major. You don't care about that. Like, you've never clicked to get more information on that, do you? No, you don't care that these guys are in college. You don't care that they go to class. Hell, you barely care if they even get good grades. The only thing you care about is
rates, though,
whether or not, that's Clemson fans care. Clemson fans will throw that, you know what, in your face and say, oh, well, Dabo's graduating all these student athletes. Diesel, isn't that great? We really care about. Nobody cares about that. Nobody. You're arguing a moot point. But revenue sharing is coming in 2025 and 2026. That is part of the House versus NCAA settlement.
Yeah.
Schools are going to be able to share up to $21.5 million of revenue with their student athletes. So why not just skip over all the crap when it comes to making them go to class? Half of them don't anyway.
Not North Carolina.
We know that North Carolina, thank you, engaged in 30 years of systematic academic fraud to keep its student athletes eligible by enrolling them in fake classes. They just had the genius forethought to put 2 or 3 non-football players in these classes so that they could say, oh, these classes are open for everybody. Anybody could take underwater basket weaving. It's not a sport. It's not a class for just dumb athletes to keep easy A's coming on their report cards. No. Will Vandervoort posted a fantastic article earlier today on the Clemson Insider.
I hadn't read this yet. Interested to hear about this.
He was quoting Dabo in a couple of different ways and places. And Dabo, you know, as Paul Feinbaum said, I know we're going to talk about Paul a little bit later on in the show. Dabo was bemoaning these changes coming to college football. This is Will Vandervoort's article. He said, quote, playing for a college degree does not seem to be the main objective anymore, especially when it comes to landing big-time players. He also said, Dabo's worst fears have come true. The scholarship is no longer the incentive anymore. College athletics, in particular college football, has become professional. So let's stop pretending like these guys are student athletes and just let them be athletes, because let's be real. Football is just there to be the marketing arm of an institution. What do they used to call it? The front porch. Football is the front porch of the college experience. A lot of kids find out about where it is they want to go to school because they got a good football team.
So this one's a tough one. And again, I want to make sure I'm clear on where you side.
Mm-hmm.
If they do become employees, you don't think they should
go to class anymore.
You know what? Being quite honest, quite frank, I can sit here and try to come up with a very good leg to stand on to disagree with you. Sometimes I do that. I did that in the very first segment, but I can't do that right now. I don't know that I can sit here and say, well, if they're employees, if they're an employee of the university, they should be required to go take the class. Because the reality of it is, if they are an employee, basically what you're saying is, to them, rather than the regular athletes, these are more important. Regardless of if you want to admit it or not, you're saying these are paid employees. So why are they having to go take the same classes that these guys are when they're not even coming to school for those classes?
Right. Why are we making the first string wide receiver, who we want to be the best wide receiver he could possibly be? Why are we making him take 20 hours a week out of his time to go to class?
Yeah.
Why are we making him study? Why are we making him sit in with tutors? All of those things take away from the real reason that guy is in school, which is to be a better football player. I mean, these guys, they are academic, or excuse me, they should be eventually only looked at as athletic representatives of the school.
No longer student athletes is what
No
you're saying.
longer student athletes. They are just athletes. I mean, if you really want to stick to they have to complete some form of academics. And some of these guys, they're going to want to go to school, right? Not all just take away the requirement. If they want to go to class, if they want to get a degree, great. I mean, we all know that 2% of college athletes actually go pro. And the ones that do, the NFL stands for not for long. Some of them are going to have a little bit of intelligence. Maybe they haven't had 1,000 concussions like Brett Favre did. And they're going to know, I better have a degree because after this, I'm going to be broke with nothing on my resume, but I can catch football.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating because there are going to be a lot of people, and I want to continue to have this conversation as the weeks go on, because there's going to be a lot of people, Diesel, who disagree with you and I, who say they absolutely should still have to go to class. I know how people are. They're going to say, well, that's what they're there for.
Give me one good reason other than tradition.
Right.
Traditionally, they have to go to class to be on the football team. Other than tradition, give me a good reason as to why they have to go to class.
And that's why I said
football team.
I'm not going to disagree with you because I can't give you a good reason. They shouldn't be. If they're not student athletes, if they're employees, I can't say that. Hey, by the way, what spawned in the very first segment is now not just an idea. It's a real thing. We already have 5 people entered into the Wire to Wire Fantasy Football League. If you want to join, text the show. I will send you the link. I will reply to your text with the link for you to join. Only 15 spots left. 5 gone already, just like that. It'll fill up fast. So if you want to get in now. I see Tim, I see JD, and a few others as well. All right, coming up next, Diesel. Going back to our conversation yesterday, what these records, 4-8, 5-7, or 6-6, mean for Shane Beamer. We'll get into that next. A lot of interaction on the show today. JB chimes in on that very last topic and says if they are paid employees, they should get to stay at the school as long as they want or as long as their employer is employing them. Interesting. That's an interesting take there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see we're going back to catch everybody up what we're talking about. In 2 years' time, college athletes will become paid employees of universities. Universities will be able to spend up to $21.5 million to pay student athletes at their school. It's the revenue sharing. And so the question that I said is, why should they even be student athletes anymore at that point? Why aren't they just athletes, right?
Yeah.
Why don't they just go there, they exhaust their 4 years of eligibility, and then they move on, right? Why are we making them take time away from getting to be better football players or basketball players or whatever sport it may be? Why are we making them take time away from training to be better football players if they're just paid employees?
No, I'm with you.
What other business requires something like that on the side? Right. I mean, like, could you imagine if you were whatever your profession is, your employer requires that you go do 20, 25 hours of community service every week just to stay employed with them?
That would be interesting.
Nobody else makes their employees do that.
Going back to the second subject today, Laura chimes in on the text line. We appreciate you listening and being a Tolo, Laura. Laura says excess padding inside or outside a helmet cannot stop the movement of the brain inside the skull, which is ultimately the cause of concussions. Newton's law at play. Look at that. How about that good text? That's what I'm talking about, Laura. Coming in strong, educating the Tolos. That's what I'm talking about.
The only thing that I can picture, Cole, is that you have to like suspend the player's head in some sort of non-Newtonian fluid to completely eliminate the shock or greatly reduce the shock of a head impact. And I don't think you can do that. I don't think. I mean, that doesn't exist.
It'd be tough. And by the way, Tolos, as you join that fantasy league that I was talking about earlier in the show, you better come in strong with these names. I'm seeing some names right now that are okay names. Maybe they're the default names, but you better come in strong. Tim Lipsy, I like your name already. That's a good one. You better come in strong with some good and keep it appropriate so we can say it on air. That's the main thing, right? Because if it's Sharon Moore text messages, we can't say it on air. That'd be a good team name. Sharon. All right, let me digress. Diesel, you and I yesterday, in case any of our Tolos missed it, we predicted South Carolina's schedule for 2024. It took up the whole segment, so we didn't get to really visit the branches of the tree, if you will. But let's dive a little deeper now, because we did hint at it. But what do these records mean for Shane Beamer? Because if I'm not mistaken, you had him 5-7, is that right?
Yep.
And I had him 6-6 as our official predictions, which I don't feel good about that, but that's what I did. I made the prediction. Okay, I went out on a limb there, trying to pump some.
Trying to curry favor with the Gamecock fan base.
Absolutely, they say right, because I do that so well already. So, what do these records mean? And I posted this on Facebook earlier today. If you don't do so already, make sure you go and like our Facebook page, The Fan Upstate. As of right now, that post that I had on there has 22 comments. So there's some good discussion going on in the comment section on that post. And I'll get to some of those later in the segment. But Diesel, these records, I want to ask you as well as our audience what they mean for Shane Beamer. And let's start with the positive and then work our way down. Let's say somehow, some way, and I don't think on record, I don't think this will happen. But somehow, some way, they go 7-4 in 2024. I think Shane Beamer is now safe for 2 to 3 years. Any pushback on that ideology?
Well, if they go 7-4, which game did they forfeit? 7-5, I think is what you mean to say.
I made a mistake there.
7-5.
Well, one got rained out, I think. Right.
Well, at least they didn't lose that week.
Yeah. 7-5.
No, 7-5. I think Shane Beamer is safe for 2025 and 2026, barring anything really bad. happening in those seasons. I think you buy yourself 2 years of goodwill, not only with Ray Tanner, but also with the fan base. So unless something really weird happens, like in 2026, you start out 0-6. If that happens, all that goodwill is gone, right? It's kind of like taking you right back to the day Shane Beamer got hired. And everybody's feeling good about this program. And everybody's thinking, wow, they're moving in the right direction. They're able to get the right pieces in here. You go 7-5. I think you recapture the goodwill of that fan base.
No doubt. I mean, look, as I said, I don't think there's any way in where it happens. But 7-5 South Carolina fans are feeling really, really good. And that might mean they beat that team in the ACC at the end of the year. If you win 7 games, I mean, you're not beating Alabama. Yeah, 7-5 might have meant you win 6, you get into a bowl, cherry on top 7. Now you have a chance to win 8 in the bowl game, and you might have beat Clemson. I mean, what South Carolina fan right now wouldn't take that? So I think, to your point, I agree with you. I think it would buy them 2 for sure, maybe 3. Obviously, that would have to continue. We live in a microwave world where now is all that matters, but boy, that'd be big.
Yeah, 7-5 means you got Old Dominion, you got Akron, you got Wofford, you got Vanderbilt.
Yep, that's 4.
And then you're picking up 3 more wins over the regular season. Let's just say Kentucky.
Yep.
You get Kentucky, you get A&M.
That's 6.
And then you're getting one of LSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, Missouri, or Clemson.
Wow, those are tough games.
They are.
That
now,
would mean
if the one that you get is Missouri, and I understand Missouri is set to be really good this year, preseason number 7, but Missouri doesn't feel like as big of an upset of
and I
beating
agree with that.
LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson.
Yeah,
but you know, like it's great to beat Missouri. You've had a hard time against Eli Drinkwitz led teams, but you still then failed to win any of the ones that feel like helmet scouting cultural upsets. LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson.
And one of those wins, if you get one, that's massive. And I don't disagree with your Missouri point, but let's say you got one over Oklahoma or even a Clemson. I mean, you win 7. It's spectacular. So as we work our way down, this is where it gets more fun, more hairy, if you will. 6-6. Still safe, in my opinion. I think Beamer Diesel still safe for 1 to 2 years. I don't think 6-6 is what gives you confidence to give a man an extension. However, in the SEC with that schedule, that would mean you do beat Kentucky, you do beat A&M, but you don't beat anybody. You don't upset anybody else, right? You take care of who you're supposed to beat. And 6-6, I think South Carolina fans, even though Shane Beamer said our ceiling or our expectations are the playoffs, I think South Carolina fans will be happy with 6-6.
So Shane Beamer's current contract, and now this includes a 2-year contract extension, runs through December 2027. In no way, shape, or form do I feel like going 6-6 in the regular season guarantees that Shane Beamer gets through his contract. 7-5, I think, guarantees that you get through your contract. And it would not be smart of Ray Tanner to extend a coach that just went 7-5 when you've got him already on contract for 3 more seasons. I think you hold pat with the nobody. I mean, let's be real. Shane Beamer goes 7-5 in the SEC, and nobody calling Shane Beamer trying to hire him away. Nobody out of the Big Ten is calling Shane Beamer's representative and saying, hey, we got to get Shane Beamer here to Nebraska.
Nobody
we
big.
Got to get Shane Beamer here. I mean, Rutgers might call him.
Troy.
Yeah. Come on now. No, I'm just saying, like, nobody. 7-5 is not, his agent is not fielding any phone calls.
Okay.
So I think he's safe through his contract, but you're not extending him. 6-6. I don't even think 6-6 guarantees Shane Beamer finishes out his contract.
I don't either. And that's why I say it doesn't
makes you safe for next year in my mind. And that's about
it. Does. That's right. And I don't think it gives Ray Tanner, I don't think 6-6 gives him that vote of confidence. Again, though, it's tough because he's not going to win 7 games this year. So 6-6 in reality with what he has maybe should, but
Yeah.
it's a tough line to walk.
I think 6-6 with a bowl win makes you safe for 2025. And of course, it depends on who that bowl opponent is. If it's another power conference, let's say it's a Big Ten team, right? And you beat a Big Ten team to go 7-6 on the season. I think you go into 2025 feeling really confident. He's got a completely safe 2025 season. You go 6-6 with a bowl loss. I think Shane Beamer's squarely on the hot seat for 2025. That's one of those you better have a 500 or better record halfway through the season at the 6-game mark or the 8-game mark if you want to ensure that you're going to finish out this season.
And that's where I want to go to our Facebook page. I want to give a lot of credit to Ryan with this comment, Diesel, who posted 5 hours ago on this post asking this question. I think this is a really good comment from Ryan. Ryan says, I think it depends a lot, not just on wins and losses, but what they look like. 5-7 with close losses to big programs and just outmatched. Tanner probably lets it ride. Freshman quarterback, new receiving core, I think he means new quarterback, new receiving core, etc. There's enough places to point to hope for, I guess. 5-7, and they look outmatched, outcoached in every game against quality opponents. Mm-hmm. Then they have to make a move. I do agree with Ryan in the sense of if they hold their own in those games.
Optics matter at that point.
100%.
Optics really matter.
100%.
And if you are winning small against, say, 5 wins, you're barely squeaking past the G5 programs. You're barely squeaking past Vanderbilt. And you're getting blown out by the better competition, he's gone. He's gone. I don't think. I mean, like,
so 5-7's where you would take us, and 5-7 there. I think that's where it gets tough because you picked them 5-7, and I could see 5-7. It's not the standard, Diesel. He said, and I think he made a huge mistake by saying this. And a lot of fans will disagree with me, but I think he made a huge mistake by getting up on stage at ACC or SEC Media Day and saying, our expectations are the playoffs. No, they're not. They're not. And now you're allowing us to say, okay, if you go 6-6 or 5-7, you're gone because your expectations are the playoffs, and you're not meeting that. You're not going to meet that in 10 years, Shane.
What Shane Beamer, the mistake Shane Beamer made is that he didn't give himself the opportunity to backtrack. You know, Dabo Swinney said the best is the standard.
Right.
Well, it used to be best as the standard meant college football playoff and winning playoff games and winning national titles. Now, best as the standard just means, well, you tried your best.
5-7, you think he's on the hot seat?
Very much so.
Yeah.
That's the point where people start saying enough. I think 5-7 is where a handful of fans, a good portion of the South Carolina fan base, starts to say enough. All right, Shane, we're not buying it anymore. 4-8 is when Ray Tanner has to say enough.
Gamecock fans, I want to hear from you on 5-7. Is 5-7 a definite hot seat? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Yes or no? Is 5-7 a definite hot seat? Also on the stream, Madcraft says 6-6 would give him another year, I think. And I agree with that on 6-6. I think it'd buy him a year. But again, we live in a microwave world where what happened 2 years ago, to your point, you said a minute ago, it really doesn't matter. What happens now is what matters. And I don't know that 5-7 buys. It's tough. I don't know that 5-7 gives you any confidence if you're the AD.
Shouldn't.
That's the problem.
It shouldn't. At that point, you're in how many years deep into Shane Beamer's season? What, 3 years in now or 4 years in? So that would make 5 full seasons.
Yeah. One of 3 or 4 off the top of my head.
I get it. I mean, we all get it. You're playing in the SEC. You're playing in the toughest conference in America. You're trying to pull yourself up by the bootstraps in the toughest conference in America. But you also get to induce players to come to you for money.
This is his 4th.
This is his 4th year. Okay.
This is his 4th.
Yeah, we all know that coaches who pop in year 3.
Sure.
And Shane Beamer hasn't shown us any pop. The only pop that we've seen so far out of Shane, and this is what we all thought was going to be the catalyst that really launched South Carolina, was beating Tennessee and Clemson the way that they did. And obviously both of those wins are in question based on potentially, allegedly, intel that was passed along from Michigan.
That's true. Before we get to the very last one, a couple of texts. 934 says Beamer got the Gamecock soft. Tanner needs to go. 441 says love Shane Beamer, but at some point the feel good runs out. 5-7 is hot seat for me. And I think that's well said from the 414. I think that's a good way to put it. At some point, Diesel, as much as South Carolina fans do love Beamer, not all, but some, the feel good is going to run out. And 5-7, unless one of those 5 wins is Clemson, there's not going to be any feel good at the end of the season. 554 on the text line says, the way I look at it is, how could we get anybody better than him? Who could y'all see coming to South Carolina to coach? Honestly, well, that's not I'm not being derogatory. That's not a great way to look at it.
No, because this job pays a lot of money, and coaches in this game are ambitious. Yeah. Coaches will always want to move up and put themselves into a position where they have to challenge themselves more. Do they all understand that South Carolina is a bigger challenge than becoming the head coach at Alabama? Well, yeah, they understand that they're going to be going up against the best of the best of the best. But no job has ever gone unfilled.
Correct.
Even when Sean Elliott left Georgia State to go be a position coach at South Carolina, they hired somebody like that.
You don't think Jamie Chadwell has any desire to be the coach? I think so.
Right.
I think so.
Somebody brought up a good point to me once. They were talking about an on-air radio job in Atlanta. And they said, yeah, this job was a crappy day part. It was like overnights, midnight to 5 a.m. And it was paying like $70,000, which in Atlanta is not that much money. And then the program director fired the guy who was in that position and said, hey, I'm going to post this job, and I'm also going to cut the salary to $45,000 a year. And people around him were saying, no way. There's no way. You're not going to get anybody applying for this job. Guess what?
Somebody did.
As soon as they posted that position, dozens of people were sending in their resume to try to get that job. So no matter what school you're talking about, even if it's Rutgers, guess what? People are going to be jumping over their brother.
Somebody is,
to pole vaulting over anybody they can pole vault over to try to get the head coaching job at Rutgers, because you know how much it pays? A lot of money. Eric
on Facebook says you should never not be on the hot seat at 5-7. Not saying that means you should get fired there, but it shouldn't feel safe anyway. And I agree. I think that's well said. Well said. One more. And this one's the easy one to me. If Shane Beamer in 2024 finishes 4-8, in my opinion, contract aside, he's gone at the end of the season.
Yeah. Shane's ass is grass and Ray Tanner's lawnmower at that point.
4-8, he's gone, right?
Gotta be.
I mean,
because that's a step back.
Yeah. How do you justify if they were to go 4-8? How do you justify? Because that would mean you get one SEC win over Vandy, and that's it. You beat Akron, you beat Wofford, you beat Old Dominion. That's your 4 wins right there. And you lose everybody else. Lose to everybody else. There's no way you bring them back. If you do, pitiful on you.
I look at that, Cole, and I think, what if any one of those losses is to Old Dominion or Akron?
Oh, God.
Old Dominion, not expected to be a very good team this year, but that is a program that pulls upsets. They've upset Virginia Tech multiple times in their house. They can beat Power 5 teams. I don't know much about Akron in 2024. I don't know what they bring back. I don't know if they're expected to have a pulse.
Real quick,
I don't. If you lose one of those 2 games, Cole, I'm not sure you make it to week 8.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Real quick before the break, Dewey wants to chime in. Our daily Dewey, hadn't heard from him in a while. Dewey, what's up?
Yes, y'all need to leave Shane Beamer alone. He's doing a great job. He has the greatest players, and he's going to go 12-0 this year.
I agree. I agree, Dewey. 12-0. Let's get behind it, right? Thanks, Dewey.
Thank you, Dewey.
12-0. 12-0. What if I think I left Dewey speechless when I said I agree, right? He's like, wait a minute. He agrees? Wait, what did he say? We wasn't supposed to say that.
Oh,
Throw 'em out
Dewey's already drinking. It's 4:20 in the afternoon. Dewey's already drinking. When we come back, we are expecting to bring on Gary Stokan, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated. This is the biggest of the big wigs, right? If we can get Gary Stokan, we've had a little trouble getting him on to this point.
And what's funny is they've reached out to us every time.
Right. So we are hoping to bring on Gary Stokan of the Peach Bowl. Obviously, you'll know here in just a couple of minutes if we've accomplished that or not. That's next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
Come on. Okay. Hello.
25 more sleeps, Cole. 25
Ooh,
more
wow.
sleeps. College football is back 25 days until Clemson, Georgia in Atlanta. We are pleased right now to be joined by Gary Stokan, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated. Gary, what you've accomplished at that game for that venue is nothing short of truly incredible. 22 sellouts in 25 years under your tenure as CEO and president of the Peach Bowl. Can you go back, Gary, to the early years of the Peach Bowl? What moments and matchups do you specifically remember that stand out to you as special and what really helped launch this bowl game into the premier household name that it is?
Well, there's two games that I think really established two programs that are in the top 10 on an annual basis now. One is Alabama in 2007, 2008, when we started the kickoff game. Alabama, Nick Saban was in his second season, had lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year, finished 7-6. And we started the kickoff game format. And I called Nick Saban and asked him if Alabama would like to come over and play. And he said, well, we'd definitely like to come play. You helped me when I was at LSU, because I had got LSU in 2000 when Nick was head coach there in the Peach Bowl when my committee didn't want me to. And I put my job on the line in my second year, saying that LSU would promote the bowl, they would sell tickets, et cetera, and they did. They came up and beat Georgia Tech, and LSU that year recruited the class that won the national championship in 2003. But fast forward to 2008, Nick said, yeah, you helped me then, I'll help you out now. And if we can finish second in recruiting in Georgia and first in Alabama, we'll play for national championships. Well, they came in the first Chick-fil-A kickoff game. They beat Clemson, who was top 10. They went on to the next year win the national championship after beating Virginia Tech in our Chick-fil-A kickoff game, who was ranked number 7 and Alabama was number 5. And they had 19 kids on the roster from Georgia and won the national championship. And Nick Saban would tell you that kickoff game started the Alabama dynasty that they've been on ever since. And then secondly, in 2013 in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, when the word Clemsoning was in everybody's dictionary, Clemson on 4th and 16, Taj Boyd hit Hopkins, 4th and 16, get a first down, kick a field goal to beat top 10 LSU, 13-12. And the word Clemsoning went out of the dictionary. Particularly after they beat Georgia to open the season the next year. And Dabo would tell you that's kind of when Clemson really got it rolling as well. So those two programs, Alabama and Clemson, who are two of the top, 5 programs over the last 10 years, both got really energized and started one in our kickoff game and one in our bowl game.
Gary, that was an electric atmosphere. I was at that Clemson LSU game on 4th and 16. And man, you're right. That was an incredible game. I remember it like it was yesterday. I want to ask you about the city of Atlanta. I mean, your event has now generated an economic impact of $1.2 billion and $79 million in the last few years for the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What does this mean for not just the city of Atlanta, but for the state of Georgia as a whole to have this event in that state year after year?
Well, I think that's the key. You said it. We're a Super Bowl or a Final Four or, any major big time event you may want to talk about. They come into your city and then they're gone for about 20 years. If you think about the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, we're on an annual basis, as well as our Aflac kickoff game. And so that's money every year. If you accumulate those dollars in economic impact to the city and the state, they're worth more than a Super Bowl or a Final Four, which only happens once every 20 years. So, it's been, I think more than that is that we've given $63 million to charities since 2002, which makes us the most charitable bowl organization in the country. And I think that's a big part of our mission. We were the 9th oldest bowl game, founded in 1968. But the first bowl game founded for charity purposes.
Gary Stoken, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated, joining us here on the Fan Upstate. Gary, I love it when bowls get hyper creative. I mean, it's a modern world where you have to be hyper creative to get people's attention. And I'm thinking of the Pop-Tart that sacrificed itself to be eaten last year. You might not be able to give us a sneak preview of what you've got planned for this year's game, but can you walk me through some of the outlandish ideas that have come up in meeting rooms? Hey, Gary, what if we do this? Why don't we do this wild thing?
Well, we have cows and ducks in our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and our Aflac kickoff game that make appearances. So we're either parachuting cows or we're shooting ducks out of Gatling guns, or giving helmets, old leather helmets on football coaches. So yeah, you got to have fun doing this stuff. And we do. I mean, beyond the charity and beyond the economic impact, you know, if you can't have fun doing what we're doing, your heart's not beating.
No doubt about it. I love that. And by the way, Gary, I enjoy shooting ducks as well. Just a little bit opposite context of what you're talking about there. But that does sound like a lot of fun. A game that we know, with us being right in the heart of Clemson country here in the upstate of South Carolina, a lot of our fans are looking forward to. What goes into picking the teams every year for these?
Yeah, you know, it's like each one of your kids, they all have a different story. And this one was kind of interesting. I was talking to Dan Radakovich and Greg McGarity, who were the ADs respectively at Clemson and Georgia. They're no longer there, but, you know, I talked about renewing the old 1980-81 kind of Georgia-Clemson rivalry. I go back to when I worked at Adidas. Back in the 80s, I had Clemson wearing Adidas with Barry Tuttle running into the end zone on the cover of Sports Illustrated, winning the national championship in his Adidas football cleats. And then the next year, having Herschel Walker in Georgia win the national championship in his Adidas. So it was a great rivalry back then, and they had talked about renewing it. And I said, well, why don't you do the rubber match in our kickoff game? And they were going to do a home and home. So the season worked, or the scheduling worked out where we flip-flopped it, where they're doing the first game in the Aflac kickoff game, and then they'll go home and home the next 2 years. So, yeah, that's how that one came about.
Gary, can you take your Peach Bowl hat off for just a second, set that down, and just talk to me like a college football fan? Do you believe that there are too many bowl games? And if there ever was a push to reduce the number of bowls, how would something like that actually happen? Like, what would the process be to say, hey, guess what? This bowl right here, you're axed, you're done.
Well, you have fragmentation of the bowls. You have the New Year's Six bowl games, which are now turning into the CFP quarterfinal and semifinal games, of which we're humbly proud to be a part of this year. We'll host a quarterfinal in the CFP with more than likely an ACC championship team. And then next year we'll host the semifinals. And in between, we'll host the national championship this year in Atlanta. So quite a run of games coming to Atlanta over the next year here. But there's different fragmentation of bowls. You've got 18 bowls that are owned by ESPN. Those bowls will continue because ESPN makes so much money from advertising viewership during those 2 weeks of Christmas holiday. Then you have the 6 bowls that I just mentioned in the quarters and semis. And I worry about those bowls that do a tremendous job for college football in the Pop-Tart you mentioned, the Gator Bowl, the Music City Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, the DirecTV Bowl, the Mayo Bowl. I'm probably missing some, but those 12 maybe bowls in there, I worry that, the media and the attention could fall on the 12-team playoff and start to diminish those bowls games, which do such a great job, not only in their communities, but for charity and for players that, get the opportunity to enjoy a bowl week after a tough season.
Gary Stoken, president and CEO of Peach Bowl Incorporated, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Gary, we've touched on it briefly, but talk about the charities, because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And you guys, as you mentioned, are able to donate so much money, so many funds to those charities, and absolutely more than welcome to name the ones that you have donated to over the years. But I'm sure that that's got to be a large economic impact for them as well.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. It's part of our mission, as I mentioned earlier, to give back. We spent $13 million basically building, sustaining, and moving the College Football Hall of Fame to Atlanta back in 2010. We have $9.3 million in endowed scholarships in our John Lewis Legacy of Courage scholarships at 34 universities throughout the country for Title I kids in Atlanta and Georgia. That some of these kids are the first ones in their whole family ever to go to college. And so we provide a scholarship to them, hopefully changing the dynamics of their family for the next generation. We've given $22 million to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta to fund trials and cures to find a way to eradicate childhood cancer. Right now, we have 14 trials existing. Some are moving to phase 2 in 5 different hospitals in 4 different states. And so our goal is to get something across the goal line with FDA approval that can save a kid's life for a month, a year, or maybe a lifetime. So those are some of the main things that we're doing. We're using college football for the greater good. And this year, our Aflac kickoff game is a kickoff for a cause, where Dabo Sweeney and Kathleen Sweeney gave time to go to Prisma Hospital in Greenville there to visit kids with childhood cancer. And Kirby Smart's doing the same thing here in Atlanta at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And Aflac's made contributions to those hospitals and to the coaches' foundations for them doing that. We'll also give our 50-50 raffle money to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta in our Peach Bowl Legacy Fund to continue to fund those trials. And then we'll put $100,000 up, and Aflac will match that to go under our Peach Bowl Legacy Fund as well. So we're also going to sell T-shirts, one Clemson T-shirt and one Georgia T-shirt that were designed by cancer patients. And we're going to sell those and give that money to the Peach Bowl Legacy Fund as well. So the goal is to raise over $300,000 to continue those trials, and we're well on our way to doing that.
Gary Stokan, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Gary, I want to let you know that I've done my part putting money into Chick-fil-A's pockets over the years. I have been to the restaurants many, many times. If and when you pull into a Chick-fil-A restaurant, what is your go-to menu item? What's your go-to order? And what GOAT item do you look at and say, Chick-fil-A, you really need to put that one back on the menu because it was great?
Well, I'm very basic. I'm from Pittsburgh, so what you see is what you get. I get a number 1, or I get the 4-count chicken strip meal. I do like the milkshake, so peach milkshake is special to me for all the obvious reasons. And but I will say this, I probably put on about 15 to 20 pounds of Chick-fil-A over the last 26 years. Eating there so much, but I often tell people their food is great, but their people are better. They have such great people. They've been a wonderful partner for us. We've grown together. When we first started, they came on in 1997 as the sponsor of the Peach Bowl. They're the longest title sponsor of any bowl in the country in the history of college football. And they really just were in stores with Virginia through Texas at the time. And now they're all over the country, even international now. So they've grown with us and we've grown with them, and it's been a wonderful partnership.
Gary, great stuff. We really enjoyed spending a few minutes with you, and hope to do it again sometime in the future. Best of luck on all the endeavors, and we appreciate you hopping on with us.
Well, thanks for having us, guys, and we hope to see you down here and host you at the Aflac kickoff game.
Absolutely. We look forward to it. That's Gary Stoken, president and CEO of Peach Bowl Incorporated. And Diesel, as long as they approve our credentials, we should be good, right?
Yeah. We should have kept Gary on the line for about 20 more seconds and said, "Hey, Gary, we've put in our credential requests. Is there anything you can do to grease the wheels and give us a better chance of getting those things approved?"
That's right. I think we got a good shot. I mean, we did it pretty early. We didn't wait till the last minute, right? I mean, we got our ducks in a row, but that was really good stuff by Gary. That's awesome. Appreciate him taking time to hop on. I mean, I don't know if our listeners realize like that dude's done a really, really good job, and he's done a lot.
There are people who are a big deal. And that guy's kind of a big deal.
Kind of. And you know what's amazing? His team, I want to give a shout out to his team for lining that up. Trevor and the rest of their team reached out to us, and we appreciate them doing so. They were great to work with. And we'll be there, hopefully. Hopefully you'll be there, too, if you are a Clemson fan.
Live update for you, by the way. Quarterfinals, Team USA up 77-51 on Team Brazil. And you know me, Cole. I love the red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, that Brazil jersey reminds me of OG Seattle Supersonics.
It does.
And I love it. White jersey with the yellow banana trim and some green numbers on there. That's giving me hardcore Seattle Supersonics vibes.
It's a lot better than the USA jersey.
You think it's better?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't like the blue.
I could never say that about my country.
Well, I want more red and white. Like AD sleeves or what? Oh, what a putback. Did you see that? That was nasty. That was gross.
Why does AD wear sleeves? Does he got little arms?
I guess so.
A little embarrassed about his arms?
His eyes, his arms don't match his brows. All right, Daily Wires coming up next. Big thanks to Gary Stoken for joining us just a few moments ago on Wire to Wire as he's getting us excited. I'm ready for some ducks. What do you say? Cows? Oranges?
Yeah, firing
peaches?
chickens out of
Not
cannons
oranges,
and
I'm sorry.
stuff.
That's got to be.
He said to me something. He said something about a Gatling gun that shoots ducks.
I'm all in. I don't know what it is, but I'm all in.
Is this something that we've already seen before that I'm not thinking of?
I don't know. I don't know what a Gatling gun is. I should know that,
the
right?
Gatling gun's the big one with the wheel that
Okay,
goes
gotcha.
all the way around. Yeah,
Does again? What again? They shoot chickens out of it. That's incredible. I love it. I'm excited. Hopefully, Diesel and I will be there. Clemson, Georgia. I wish it wasn't a noon kick. I'm not happy about that. Not real happy.
Oh, darn. We're going to have to get up. Well, you're going to have to get up after a night of calling high school football.
I know. We might have to go down there and.
You know Nerf makes a Gatling gun?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We need one in here, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
It's time for the Daily Wires. We do it every single day to get you caught up on what's going on in the world of sports. How about this one to start it off, Diesel? Shane Connick, our good buddy who joined us on Fridays to talk NASCAR, sent me this tweet earlier. We'll start it off with a little bit of breaking news. If you have not heard, Bristol Motor Speedway will host a 2025 MLB regular season game between the Atlanta Braves and Cincinnati Reds. That is weird, but I'm interested. Like, that place is small, right?
How are they gonna do this?
I don't know. But I'm intrigued.
I mean, if they put home plate essentially in one of the corners, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the track is huge, so
No.
you'd have stands that basically wrap from, right field all the way around to left field, and then they could put some stands in on the ground behind the wall. I think that would be insane.
It's going to be tight. There's
I
no
think
doubt.
that would be nuts.
I'm excited. I don't know what it's going to
Wow.
look like, but I'm intrigued now. Braves, Reds, in Bristol. 2 hours? Not far at all from here, from the upstate.
Let's get credentialed for that.
100%. Are you kidding me? We'll do the show from there. How about that?
Yep.
The Braves, speaking of the Braves, host the Brewers tonight at 7:20. Let's see if they can get back on track.
They
After
just lost
getting-
2 or 3 to the Brewers, right?
Yeah, I think so. Not long. Thanks. Oh, bad taste in my mouth. And a little NL East to watch. Diesel, the Phillies, they're in LA tonight, 10-10. Mets are in Colorado. So perfect world. You want the Braves to win, and you want those other 2 scumbag teams to lose. Sources, 49ers, open to a Brandon Ayuk trade. We mentioned this yesterday. Patriots and Browns. No Panthers. No Cowboys for me, but Diesel, Patriots and Browns are interested. I don't know about that.
The Browns are clearly willing to spend some money to put a wide receiver in with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
This has to be a make or break year for Deshaun Watson. I mean, he came in with all of that negativity surrounding him, and then he was unavailable for a lot of his time, last year or the year before. So this feels like this has to be it for
It's
Deshaun.
gotta be.
You better pop this year, or you're just going to be labeled as an NFL bust.
Better pop. If it does pop, though, it's going to take a lot of massaging to get that thing back right. If it pops, just saying. The Chicago White Sox, Diesel, they continue to impress. This is bad.
I mean, it is impressive to be this
It's
bad.
impressive. 21 straight losses. They have now tied the AL record. This is embarrassing. This team sucks. I mean, that's bad. So good thing there's not a lot of White Sox fans in the area. That's tough. Rapper Pitbull has bought the naming rights to FIU Stadium for 5 years, $1.2 million. Deshaun Watson Field.
How about Deshaun Watson Field at Clemson Memorial Stadium? Anybody?
I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I can.
Trevor Lawrence Field.
Yeah, I'm
you
fine
can
with
get
that.
behind Trevor Lawrence Field, but you couldn't get behind Deshaun Watson
Give it
Stadium.
time to massage in my head.
Hey,
We'll see.
I'm an App State grad. How about Luke Combs' Long Neck Ice Cold Stadium?
Oh,
You
they
telling
get
me
cold.
the world would not get behind that?
Oh, they would. 100%. 100% they would. And South Carolina quarterback Robbie Ashford says he was told he had a real opportunity to compete for the starting job. What do you make of that?
Well, he was talking about it from the perspective of all the different coaches that recruited him. Number one, coming out of high school, and number two, in the transfer portal. And he said Brian Harsin, he was the coach at Auburn when he was recruited there to Auburn, told him the exact same thing. You come here, you have a real chance to be the starting quarterback for this team. You'll have an opportunity to compete for it. Whereas a lot of schools told Robbie Ashford, hey, we really just want to bring you in for depth. We really want you to come in for a backup. And so Shane Beamer told Robbie Ashford, you could be our starting quarterback. You could win this job.
I think that's true because I don't think he would have gone there if he didn't think that he could have won it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to your point, why would you go if you just think you're going to be sitting there? That's really, really intriguing. And then also USA Women's Soccer defeated Germany 1-0 with an extra time goal. This win sends them to the finals. And lastly, Charles Barkley has pulled a Tom Brady, reversed his retirement announcement, saying he will stay through TNT. Stay at TNT, right?
And final one for you here, Cole. The USA has officially taken the lead for the most number of golds in these Olympic Games. As of right now, they're just dwarfing China for the number of medals total, 86 to 58. But USA now holds a 24-22 lead over China for golds. We're leading in gold, silver, and bronze.
There we go.
Suck it, world.
And lastly, before we run, USA over Brazil. Is that right, Diesel? 95-71.
I think we're going to cruise to victory.
Yeah, I think so.
In this one. When we come back, it's time for Cole and I to fight about it. The 5 o'clock fight where he and I must disagree on the topics, and you, the Tolos, tell us who wins each round. That's next on the Fan Upstate. Just a reminder, we're going to be live at Ingles Markets in Travelers Rest tomorrow, 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest. We got a $25 Ingles gift card that you could win. All you have to do is listen up for the clues, come in, tell us what product it is we're describing. You could score that $25 Ingles gift card. It's time right now for Cole and I to fight about it. This is the most interactive segment on the show. Since you Tolos love telling us who's right and who's wrong, it's the 5 o'clock fight. Let's get it on.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Here's how this works. We're going to argue about 3 different topics, sometimes life, sometimes sports. And then you text in after we're done at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Let us know who wins each round of the 5 o'clock fight. Can't get the results until we get started. Let's throw the first punch. Yesterday on the 5 o'clock fight, I asked you what's better, an elite buttermilk biscuit or elite cornbread. Pay that one forward a little bit.
Yep.
Should cornbread have sugar in it or no?
Here's the deal. I'm going to, in my opinion, I'm going to lose this round, but I'm going to stand firm on what I believe here. I grew up thinking cornbread should not have sugar. However, one day, Diesel, I realized sugar makes everything better. 110%. Sugar in cornbread takes it from great to magnificent. It should absolutely have sugar. That little hint of sweet, man, it's fantastic. And I know that in the South, people are going to say, no way, Jose, it shouldn't have sugar. But I'm here to tell you, you can't knock it till you try it. A little sugar in that cornbread, man, it'll change your life. It really will.
That sounds like a country song lyric. A little sugar in that cornbread. It's talking about a lady with a great butt or something like that. A little sugar in that cornbread.
It does.
No, man, I want my cornbread salty and buttery and bold.
Ooh.
That's what I want, right? I want that cornbread that you're going to dunk in your soup or your Hoppin' John or whatever it is. Soak up all that good stuff. That's what I want, man. Give me good, rich, buttery cornbread.
You know what? Cornbread soaked in the soup or potato soup, whatever it is elite.
You can't go wrong either way. That's the
You
truth.
can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong either way.
And tomorrow at Ingles, I've had their cornbread. It's really good, but it'd be better than sugar in it. Just saying.
Maybe we could get them to make us some sweet cornbread. Because I know they sell it in the store, right? It's on the shelves.
Yeah, it's on the shelves. It already has it. If Melissa's there, she'll do it. She'll go back there and cook it herself. You know her.
Oh, we love Melissa Level.
I mean, she's the best.
She is.
No, I as I see on the stream already, I know that people in the South, sugar and cornbread's a sin, and you're crazy for saying that. But I'm telling you, just like the mayonnaise on the corn, you gotta try it. You gotta try it. It's so good. It's so good. So I know I lost more round.
That's round 5. Yeah, you're losing this thing already. You got to come from behind here. Here we go with round number 2. Round 2 of the 5 o'clock fight today comes from Tolo Adam, who emailed me, diesel@thefanupstate.com.
There we
He
go.
asks the question, if the opposing pitcher going into the 9th has a no-hitter or a perfect game, is it bad form to bunt to break it up?
This is a terrible, terrible thing to do, in my opinion. It's so tough. I get the history behind the limited numbers of perfect games and no-hitter. I understand how prestige it is. I think it's a terrible thing. I think you don't bunt. I think there's no way you bunt there. So I will answer Adam's question, and I'll say if the opposing pitcher going into the 9th, Diesel, has a perfect game or a no-hitter, yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. You just don't do it. That's not something you do there.
It's baseball all the way until the last out is played. If you're in a tight ball game, let's say it's a 1-0 ball game, and you're trying to get on base and win that game, hell yeah, bunt. Hell yeah. I mean, look, anytime there's a no-hitter, defense has to step up and play, right? This is just an opportunity at the end of the game to force the defense to step up and play. There's so many stupid unwritten rules of baseball. You don't do this. You don't show up the pitcher. You don't flip the bat if you hit a home run. Give me a break. You don't bunt. You don't try to get on base
It's an unwritten
when the
rule.
goal is to get on base and try to win the game. Like if you're down 10, it's bad form and it's petty as hell. But if you're playing a tight ball game, it's not bad form. Get on base, try to win the game.
You know what? I don't know, and maybe I just haven't paid attention. I need to go do some research tonight and see the last time that's happened because that's fascinating. I mean, I want to see it.
That is petty, though.
It is.
That is a petty thing.
And that's
to
why
do.
I don't like it. That's why I don't like it. I can't support that. It's like you said, an unwritten rule.
There you go. That's round 2 in the books. One more to go.
Final round. Fight.
This is yours. This is a good follow-up question to that. If a pitcher is on the verge of a no-hitter, should the coach or the manager have a say, or should it be up to the pitcher only if he wants to stay in the game or come out?
So thanks to Adam for the second question. That made me think that spawned the third question. And I was thinking about the no-hitter, and I was thinking, you know what? All these unwritten rules, how about this? How about we put a rule in baseball, Diesel, to where if he's on the verge of a no-hitter, like I've seen a lot of conversations in the dugouts between players and coaches and players getting mad, right? Paul Skeens a couple of weeks ago. I don't think the manager should have a say-so. I think it should be 100% up to the player and the player only, the pitcher and the pitcher only. It's his body. It's his arm. He's a professional. He's an adult. If he screws up his shoulder or his elbow, that's on him. I think it should be 110% up to them, and the manager can sit on the bench and shut up like managers are supposed to do.
Managers know this game because they've been around this game for decades, right? They've seen all of these situations. They understand how rare no-hitters and perfect games are because they know that as you get into those late innings, 7, 8, 9, your stuff starts to break down. Your stuff starts to get very, very hittable. It's also the manager's job to manage what's going on in the game, no matter what the young hothead pitcher thinks, right? It is his job to be in control of all of those things. Like there's a lot of people out there who feel like they know better than their managers, right?
Yeah.
But there's a reason why there's a reason why managers aren't you your own boss?
Well, I'm in here.
Your side hustle. Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna give. I was gonna give you. I was gonna give you an out. I was gonna give you a chance to take
but I
that
was
one
gonna
back.
stand strong and get. I want to get called into the office.
Now, managers know these situations. Their job is to strategize and figure out who it is they've got coming up compared to what they think this pitcher has left in them. It is the manager's job to do it. Let the manager manage, not some 23-year-old hothead out there on the mound.
Our manager's now going to make us make a promo out of that, so we are reminded every day that it's his job.
Well, you should make a promo out of it just in case he didn't hear it. That way, to make sure he does hear it. Yeah.
Good point. Stick it to him,
So
right?
there you go. That's your 5 o'clock fight. To recap round 1, should cornbread have sugar in it? Cole says, yeah, it's great. Don't knock it till you try it. I say, no, I want that savory butter and salty cornbread. Round 2, this one came in from Tolo. Adam, if the pitcher going into the ninth has a perfect game, is it bad form to bunt on him? Cole says, yeah, you just don't do it. I say, bag that. It is your job. It is your goal to get on base and try to win the game. Why do I have to change how I get on base just to what? Help you get a perfect game? Not a chance. I want to break up the perfect game, no matter what way I can do it. And then the final round, if the pitcher is on the verge of a no-hitter, should the coach or the manager have a say of when that guy comes out? I say, hell yeah. It's the manager's job to manage. Let the manager manage. Cole says, nah, leave it up to the pitcher. Let him decide when it's his time to come out of the ball game. What do you think? Tolos, now that you've heard our arguments, 71307, text in. Start your text with keyword fan. Start getting in your votes, and while you're doing that, we'll tell you how you, like Tolo Adam, can suggest a 5 o'clock fight.
What do you want Diesel and Cole Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
Yeah, we appreciate Adam for sending that question in. The truth is, you Tolos have kind of been slacking on this. I was expecting, as we started this 5 o'clock fight and gave you an opportunity to get your questions to us, that you guys would take full advantage of that and hit us up with a ton of options for the 5 o'clock fight. I'm just reminding you, friendly nudge.
Get on it.
To get on it. Get your asses in gear.
He's saying, wake up, get on it.
Exactly.
And wash your damn hands.
Wash your damn hands. I don't even remember the context of why I said that.
I don't know what we're talking about. I have no idea what we were talking about on that, but for whatever reason, I saw it. I said that's a cut. That's hilarious. All righty, let's see how bad it was. Let's see how bad. I'll go to the text line. While I go to the text line, Diesel, because I'm sure some will still come in. How about you start us off on the stream?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, back to, let me scroll up a little bit, find where you guys started this thing off. Let's see. Madcraft says Cole wins round 1. Just kidding. He says,
what is that?
He says, you don't bunt unless you're a good bunter. And if you're a good bunter, then you're trying to get on base regardless. So ultimately, Madcraft says Diesel gets the sweep. He says, I'm sweeping Cole out of here. The manager is the one who would take the heat if the pitcher blew his arm out anyway. That's true. That's true. No manager, no pitcher has ever said, you know what? I told my manager to piss off, leave me out there. It's the manager. They're the ones who catch all that heat for doing that. Let's see. JB says Diesel wins round 1. Cole gets round 2, and Cole gets round 3. So you take 2 out of 3.
I finally got one,
JB.
Let's go.
Who's got Burns Rebels in his avatar picture?
Formerly Spur Daddy. Is that right?
Oh, that's okay. So, yeah,
I'm having to get used to that.
It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, JB, because you've changed it on us like 3 times.
And now, like, JB's common, right? There's a lot of JBs out there, I think. And now I'm fine with it. I'm fine with JB, formerly Spur Daddy, but it's like X, formerly Twitter. We're having to readjust.
I'm not adjusting. It's still Twitter. When Elon took away our ability to live stream video, unless you pay him $8 a month, that did it for me.
That did it.
Let's see. Whit Venisette says round 1 Diesel. Cole, you aren't from the South, are you? I think it's easy and clear to tell by his accent that Cole is from the South. He says round 2 Cole, round 3 Cole.
I knew I'd upset people with the cornbread sugar. I knew it. It's like, people get so mad about that.
I do like sweet cornbread.
I know, splitting hairs.
I do like sweet cornbread,
but
the buttery savory is better. JD says, let's see. JD says, Madcraft, that's the trouble with being a good bunter. You get on first, you're scoring. Wink, wink.
Oh, wow.
That's a dirty.
Oh,
come on, JD.
He went there. He went there.
JD.
All right, on the text line,
Grow
71307. Start your text with the word fan. 344. Says, dang that, Cole, you're good on round 1. Love sugar on a piece of cornbread. Or here's a crazy one, in my grits too. I have heard of that. Sugar and grits. But you know what? I've never tried
No,
it.
I want buttery, cheesy, salty, and peppery grits.
I get that. They're good.
Even with crumbled up pieces of overcooked bacon in there.
Yep. Never go wrong mixing it up. That same texter goes, Diesel round 2, Diesel round 3. And he says he don't want to on round 3, but sometimes people need to be protected from themselves. And I know it's just tough, man.
There are some ways, Cole, that I am all in on the idea of a nanny state.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people who drive without seatbelts on, the people who still smoke, the people who won't put their headlights on when it's raining. We need the nanny state to protect some of us from ourselves.
Yeah, it's true.
Because there's a lot of idiots out there.
615 gives me the win, says Cole, Diesel, Cole. Corn Chip weighs in on the text line. Tough choices today, says Corn Chip. It was some tough ones, wasn't it? But Diesel gets 2 and 3. Come on, Corn. Sly Guy, what's up, Sly Guy? Even though he pulls for the Eagles, I still love Sly Guy. Says Cole round 1. So he does like the sugar and the cornbread. Diesel round 2. It's situational, IDGAF. I'm trying to win. I like your honesty there. Round 3, Diesel, let the manager manage, says Sly Guy.
Let Diesel cook.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Kidding me. What's going on? What is going on? All right, next. 884, Diesel round 1. This comes from Bo. Only a Dallas fan would eat sugar cornbread. Cole round 2, Cole round 3, even after the cornbread. Thanks, Bo. Even after the slight, you still give me the win. I like that. I like the
If you're
honesty.
eating it with something salty, Cole, do you prefer it like Hoppin' John? If you're eating with something salty, do you want the sweet cornbread to counteract the saltiness?
Be good.
Or do you want the buttery, salty cornbread to go with the saltiness?
I like to counteract.
Okay.
I like to counteract.
All right.
Let's see. 344 says, oh, can y'all fight about Amy Lawrence calling Twitter/X Twix? It wrecks my morning at 5 a.m. Well, most mornings I'm not awake at 5 a.m., so I don't get to hear Tracy Lawrence, the country singer. Look at me, Amy Lawrence. Not the country singer.
That's a you problem, bro. That doesn't really bug me. I think it's funny. Because she's riding that line between the people who say Twitter, like me, who refuse to call it X, and the people who will just do whatever Elon Musk tells them to do,
like me,
like you, and calls it X.
I'm trying. It's awkward, but I'm trying. CJ from Greer says cornbread and milk with salt and pepper rules. Diesel wins 2 of 3. Man, come on. Just racking them up over there. And while you texters are texting and toloing, I do want to remind you before we run to break, we do have a wire-to-wire fantasy football draft. It happened literally in the first segment, I believe. And now all of a sudden, Diesel, we have a league. We have teams. Mine is Hawk Tua. So if you want to know who Hawk Tua is, that's my team. Just classic team name there. And I believe the league's already halfway full. Let's see who's in there. Let's take a peek. Waco Wheelers. Want to guess who that is? That's a tough. What is Waco Wheelers? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that. Madcraft, by the way. Waco Wheelers. JD, Southern Fried Football. I see Grant and Five Forks. He's in there. The Greer Grimace. I like that. The Greer Grimace with Matthew. I like that. Gaffney Crusaders. Didn't see that one coming. And leave it to Shane Barrett, Diesel. Leave it to Shane to put a word in his team name that we can't read on air, because that's what Shane does. Shane needs to name his team after the dump button, because that's all he does is get dumped for the profanity. But Shane is in the league. I see Dalton Tangerman in there as well. Good to see you guys. If you want to join, text the show 71307. Start your text with the word fan, and I will reply to you with the link to join. Is also on my Twitter. And Diesel, real quick, you'll like this. Trey in Kentucky chimes in. Diesel 1, Cole 2, Diesel 3.
I love it. I want some more puns in this fantasy football team league, right? I just Googled some of the best fantasy football team names. Here's Dak in a Box.
Oh,
how about
that's a good one.
Getaway Car with 2 R's for your favorite. Deshaun of the Dead, like that one. Hide and Zeke.
Oh, that's a good one. I missed 2 Cowboy ones. How do I miss that?
Jalen Hurts so good.
Oh, God.
How I Met Calf Your Mother.
That's the winner.
That's great. Lamar, you serious? Mahomes and Garden.
Oh, that one's great.
Natural Born Kylers.
These are really good, man. But can you use them though? They're not original.
No, they're not original.
Hawk
I'm just
Tua's
I'm
not
just trying to
original
I'm
either.
just trying to give you guys some ideas. Okay?
Those are good ones. God, those are good. Oh, by the way, JB asked, is the league ESPN or NFL? It is ESPN, I believe. It's ESPN. Is that okay?
This Gurley's on fire for Todd Gurley. Feeling up your mom.
Adam who? Adam who? That's rough, but funny. That's funny. Those are some really, really good ones, man.
The Mixon administration.
Oh, God. There's got to be some really good Deshaun Watson ones in there, you know? With
Take
all the
Mahomes Country Road.
God.
It's good stuff.
That's really good.
That's good stuff.
One texter from the 803 says, what about Hut Tua? That's a good one.
Hut Tua.
I like that. I like that one a lot. All right, I see your text, 2 or 3 already wanting to join. I'll send it to you during the break. However, we've got to run. Coming up on the other side, we started this game yesterday. And as I told you yesterday, it's up to Diesel to decide how long this game goes. It went more than one day. It might go more than 2 days. We'll find out. The game is called Carson Beck versus. If you didn't hear yesterday, stay tuned. We'll explain on the other side. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. This quarterback, Diesel, in 2023 didn't take a lot of snaps. Only 705 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. In 2022, however, it was a little bit different of a story for this quarterback. 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, 162 quarterback rating, 173 quarterback rating last year. Took, 117 attempts in 2021, 152 in 2020. Also a dual threat guy a little bit, had 419 yards in 2022. He's a good guy. He's a good punter. He's a really good player. I say punter because guess what? He's also the punter. He can punt. He can do it all. His name is Jalen Daniels, quarterback of Kansas. Started off with Shedeur Sanders yesterday, and this game that I have introduced on Wire to Wire is called Carson Beck versus. Each day, I will bring a different quarterback, and I will try to argue and make Diesel somehow, some way pick this quarterback over Carson Beck. It did not work yesterday with Shedeur Sanders. Diesel said, nope, no bueno, no way, Jose, and he went with Carson Beck. Diesel, can I offer you a really good quarterback and Jalen Daniels out of Kansas over the Bulldog himself and Carson Beck?
Jalen Daniels is damaged goods. He had a phenomenal 2022 season. You got to love a lot about what he did in 2022. 2,000 yards through the air, 400 yards on the ground. You know, he's got the ability to move his legs a little bit, and he's got a solid arm. 2022, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But and 2023, by the way, was cut short by injury.
Yep.
So number one, he's coming off of an injury. Number two, his 2022 season doesn't even remotely match what you're getting out of Carson Beck at Georgia. Almost 4,000. Why would I trade in 4,000 passing yards
he's a dual threat
for
guy.
2,000 passing yards? Why would I do that? I mean,
come on.
Carson Beck ran for 115 yards last year and 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, so Carson Beck is a pocket guy. He's not gonna pick you up a ton of yards on the ground with his legs, but he can do it if he absolutely has to. This game is going more pass happy, just like the NFL. Why would I? No, there's no way.
Okay, let me ask this
no way I'm
question.
trading that in.
Let me ask this question. Little caveat here. If I told you that at the end of the season, Jalen Daniels would be in the Heisman conversation, I'm talking showing up in a tux in New York City.
I'd say he's probably coming in third at best.
Oh, man. So
with Carson Beck possibly winning this thing.
Couldn't edge it out a little more.
I mean, I it sounds like I'm hating on Jalen Daniels.
But you're not.
I'm not. I hope that he can return to form in his 5th and final year in college. How do people still have COVID eligibility? Explain that one to me.
I can't.
Please explain that one to me. How's this still happening? Unless he somehow used a medical red shirt last year. I don't know exactly how that happens because they only played in 3 games last year.
So obviously this game will become a little more difficult as we go on. I got to give you a few, underhand
Gimmies.
pitches.
Yeah, this is a
got to give
softball
you a
pitch.
few softball pitches at first. However, I agree with you. I wouldn't ever do anything that would make you think that I would take Jalen Daniels over Carson Beck. However, I do find myself very intrigued with a guy like Jalen Daniels. I read an article from Adam Rittenberg of ESPN. And you know what? When you look at the field this year, I think Daniels might have a chip on his shoulder. And I get that Adam in his article here talking about Jalen Daniels, he says it right. He says, look, the goal for Jalen Daniels is simple and within sight. He wants to play college football, Diesel, for Kansas uninterrupted from the start of the season until the finish, right? As you mentioned earlier, that didn't happen last year. Jalen Daniels, however, when healthy, he's a really good quarterback. He's an absolute must-see quarterback when he's healthy. He does get compared to parts of his game get compared to Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, who are both in the NFL. In 12 games over the past 2 seasons, Jalen Daniels has 2,729 passing yards, 23 touchdowns. He does average 13.1 yards per completion, but he also, Diesel, has gone 291 days since his last game and has averaged only 6.25 games per season in 4 years with Kansas. So he's a hold your breath kind of guy. Unfortunately, that's what he is.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a solid quarterback for Kansas this year, and he could surprise a lot of people playing in the Big 12. Not a lot of defense. He could light up a lot of teams, and I know
Could
that
they make a run?
I know that a lot of people are pretty high on Kansas going into the season, and he's a big part of that. I'm trying to see.
I just pulled their schedule up.
You're looking at the schedule. I'm looking at the AP preseason top 25.
Weren't they at the very bottom?
Kansas is at 24.
Okay, I thought so.
So I mean, they're coming in as a top 25 team in the season.
But let's call it like it is. Kansas has no business being in the top 25 in football, right? So this is big for them.
Kansas is one of those weird teams that will jump up and have an elite season about every decade, and they'll shock you and say, "Oh my God, I forgot they even had football over there, Kansas."
Well, that's the crazy thing about it. Here's the question, though. And I want to hear from our Tolos as well. 71307, start your text with the word fan. When you look at Kansas, because I do think Jalen Daniels is a fascinating quarterback. However, do they have the resume, Diesel, when you look at their schedule? If they were to run the table, do they have the resume to find themselves in the 12-team college football playoff? I've never heard of the Lindenwood Lions. Have you? Lindenwood?
Lindenwood.
Never
This
heard
sounds
of
like college basketball where you play a D3 school or an NAIA school.
They play Lindenwood to open the season.
Yeah, well, they're going to be laying the wood.
You think? Let's see. Right off the top of your head, where do you think Lindenwood University is?
I'm going to say Lindenwood is in Kansas. I'm going to say that they're going to take on an in-state FCS opponent inside the state of Kansas.
You'd be wrong.
Oh.
Lindenwood University is in Missouri. St. Charles, Missouri. Never heard of them, but that's who Kansas opens up with. So the question, do they have a chance at the playoff? Because I do, a few weeks ago, you and I were talking about Cinderellas. This would be a fun Cinderella to follow, right? If Kansas could make a run, Jalen Daniels stays healthy, I think this would be a very fun and intriguing storyline for college football. Lindenwood, Illinois, UNLV, West Virginia.
Dear God.
West Virginia might.
That makes South Carolina's out of conference look tough.
Right.
And Akron only won 2 games last year.
Chapman High School might be on here somewhere. I mean, really, it's West Virginia. Okay. Then they do play TCU.
Yep. Well, they're in conference.
That's right. Arizona State. We'll see. Bye week. Then they play Houston and Kansas State. Kansas State's not bad. They're always a competitive football team.
Well, K-State is also they're a preseason top 25 team. I think they were somewhere in the 15 range in that AP poll that came out yesterday.
And Houston every now and then.
Oh, Houston's projected to suck this year.
Are they?
They're projected to be really bad.
Oh, okay. Throw that out the window then. Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, and Baylor. If they were to run the table, and I don't think they will, Diesel, but if they were, let's say they go undefeated 12-0, right? Is there enough strength on that schedule? 12-0 Kansas in or out of the playoffs?
12-0 Kansas.
Wins over Baylor, Colorado, BYU, K-State.
And let's say they get into the Big 12 championship game but don't win it.
Ooh.
So we're taking conference champion off the table. Do they good question is, do they have enough? Is that a good enough resume to get them an at-large? Because I mean, if they win, if they get into the conference championship game and they win it, they're in.
Sure,
what,
right.
So now we're asking the question: is that a good enough resume? 12-0 at Kansas against that schedule to get them an at-large, I think, God, because now you got to think, all right, there's 7 at-larges.
There's going to be a lot of teams.
Minimum 2 of them are going to be SEC.
Right.
So now you're down to 5.
At minimum.
2 of them are going to be Big Ten. So that's 4. That's 3 left.
That's going to be tough, man.
And now you're telling me that the ACC doesn't get an at-large. Now there's 2 left.
That's what I'm saying.
Borderline. Yeah, I say they get in just by virtue of making the Big 12 championship game. And I mean, they would have to get smoked by like 30 in that game.
Right.
Against, I mean, who else is even projected to be great in the Big 12 this year?
That's tough. If they were a one-loss team that won the Big 12, I think they'd be okay.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Big 12. So Kansas State projected to be the best team in the Big 12 this year. They've got a 30% chance to win 7 games. Utah projected to be a 29% chance to win 7 games. Kansas projected to win 28. So preseason power poll from K4 ratings, they like Kansas as the 3rd best team in the Big 12. So you're telling me that they're the 3rd best team in the Big 12 and they ran the table? But this is preseason projections, right?
You're right. Yeah.
This is not based on resume.
Yeah.
So they will have been projected to be pretty good this year, and they will have lived up to the hype and run the table in your scenario.
But
outside of winning the Big 12 conference championship game,
if K4 ratings is right, obviously they're not touching, they're not sniffing the playoff.
I mean, the Big 12's got a lot of parity this year. I like the Big 12 a lot. You got Kansas State and Utah looking like they're going to be the cream of the crop. And then Kansas, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and potentially UCF and TCU could all be really good.
I think that conference, though, would be intriguing if Kansas somehow slipped up and won.
I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams in that conference projected to win 5 conference games or more.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It is.
Hey, let's do a quick Price is Right rules attendance or capacity on Kansas State's football. It's not Kansas State, Kansas football stadium. I have the answer right here.
Oh, God.
I'm going to get Price is Right rules. You can't go over.
Okay.
You can't go over, but you got to try to be close.
Capacity for the
capacity
stadium?
for David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium in Lawrence, Kansas. You're trying to be as close as possible without going over.
And I can't phone a friend.
You can't phone a friend. And if there's any Tolos who want to quickly jump in with a guess, don't Google it. Don't cheat.
Okay, Diesel, I'm going to be way off.
They're undergoing a $500 million renovation project.
Okay. So I can be under. I just can't be over is what you're saying. I'm going to be way off. I'm terrible at these things. I'm going to guess.
Not a lot of history at Kansas as far as football success goes.
52,000.
You're not far off. Tolos haven't given us any guesses on the stream. Do we have any guesses on the text line? No, we do not. The answer is 47,233. So you're about 5,000. Now, they are saying that that's the official capacity as of June 2024. They're undergoing some renovations that are likely to reduce capacity to the low 40s when it reopens in August 2025.
So the game Carson Beck versus lives on.
It does.
Here's the question. What happens? This thing might be longer than you realize. Don't cut that. Don't promo that.
Oh, come on. Why did you cut yourself
What
off?
happens? I knew it. I felt it.
I was waiting for the Tolos to say promo.
I know somebody was going to. I knew it. What happens, though, if this thing keeps going until next week when Diesel's on a little vacation? This thing might whip around all the way till the end of August if we can't find a quarterback. It's going to be close.
It very well could. When we come back, it is time for you and I to take another look around the sports world. We'll whip it around with Daily Wires next, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. There's just so much going on in the sports world. It's hard to get to all of it each and every day, which is why we bring you this segment called Our Daily Wires. This is the buzz happening in the sports world. USA men's basketball defeated Brazil 122-87 in a quarterfinal match earlier today. Staying with the Olympics, controversial boxer Imane Khalif of Algeria advanced to the gold medal bout in the women's welterweight division over Thailand's, this is a tough name, Janjame Suwanafeng.
That was really good.
Janjame Suwanafeng. The weird thing is, so Cole, I don't know if you paid attention or heard anything about this story. Imane Khalif of Algeria, her gender was called into question after she kicked some girl's ass in like 40 seconds early in these Olympics. And then an unsubstantiated rumor came out saying that Imane failed a testosterone level test.
Wow.
At some point in the recent past. Now, this got really murky when it all came down to who her sponsors were and the sponsors of the league that she was fighting in, and the fact that it was Russia and the other side supported Ukraine. And it just got really out of hand. And it's hard to know where the truth is in this situation.
But you can't have the Olympics without a testosterone and gender
The funny
scandal,
thing is
right?
Thailand's Janjame Suwanafeng, when you look at a photo, it looks more like a dude than Imane Khalif does. And we all know, we've all heard the reputations and the stories of what happens in Thailand.
Well, I've seen some wrestling in the last few days right here in the studio where I thought, man, that guy's a good wrestler. Diesel said, that's a lady.
Yeah.
I said, oh, my bad.
Team USA leading in the gold medal count now, 24-22 over China. Australia has 14. USA is now up 86-58 on China when it comes to most number of medals overall. Host France has 48, third most. Reported earlier today by Bleacher Report, Bryce Young is out for at least preseason game number 1 for the Carolina Panthers. Dave Canales says that he just wants to protect Bryce Young. Cole and I fought about it a lot in the first segment of the show. If you want to go back and hear that, please do. It's on the podcast. 49ers Christian McCaffrey is also out for the preseason, but he's actually out for a reason. He's got a calf injury. They're not just trying to protect Christian McCaffrey. He's actually got, how about that? McCaffrey has a calf injury.
Makes
Crazy.
sense.
The Braves, Panthers fans know all about Christian McCaffrey being out due to injury.
Kid.
The Atlanta Braves get back on the diamond tonight. They'll host the Brewers at 7:20, trying to get off the skid. They were on a hell of a run there for a while. I think they won 6 out of 7, and then they started dropping games again. Just when the Phillies were opening up the door for them, the Braves had to turn around and start sucking again.
Braves fashion.
Yep.
Typical Braves.
Speaking of those Phillies, they play the LA Dodgers tonight at 10:10 p.m. The Mets are in Colorado at 8:40 p.m., so a look there at the NL race. Going back to the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers are open to a trade. They're looking at the Patriots and the Browns. Both of those teams are interested. I have no faith that the Carolina Panthers either have the cap space or the competency to go get a guy like Brandon Ayuk. And why would he even want to go play for Carolina when they got a big old question mark at quarterback position?
I tell you what, man, with Bryce still being a big question mark.
Yep.
I get it, but goodness gracious, that'd be a big
If this was next year and Bryce Young had just had a really strong second season in the NFL, I would say Brandon Ayuk might be interested, but not at this point.
Yeah,
He's
probably
probably going to
not.
want to go somewhere that's going to give him a chance.
Contender, right?
After being on a contending Super Bowl contending team like the 49ers, why would you want to go to a non-contender?
Well, do the opposite of what McCaffrey did.
Right.
And instead of going to a contender, you leave a contender and go to a pretender.
We've been talking about college football and how a lot of teams and conferences are starting to get creative with how they can raise money. Rapper Pitbull has bought the naming rights to Florida International Stadium. He's going to pay $1.2 million a year for 5 years to get the naming rights of FIU Stadium. How about that?
Well, you know what? That's out of left field.
They'll call it like Mr. 305 Stadium or something like that.
Of course. I wonder if that'll become more of a common trend now.
Yeah, I mean, these teams have to get creative, right? I mean, Gamecock fans, I mean, help us out. Who in your alumni base is famous and would drop $1 million a year or more to buy the rights to Williams-Brice Stadium, to rename it?
Not a lot of choices there,
Like,
Diesel.
you can name it the field, like, something field at Williams-Brice Stadium.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
It'd have to be Spurrier.
imagine putting, would Spurrier spend the money on it, though? Is he that vain? Could you imagine Shane Beamer having to coach a game where he's walking past Steve Spurrier's face
wouldn't be
painted
good
on the field?
It
would be wild. And finally, Charles Barkley has reversed his retirement announcement. He's saying that he will stay with TNT through the end of his contract. Whew, crisis averted.
It's true. That's big for now. Hopefully he will work it out. We don't want to see that TNT crew get split up.
JB says Darius Rucker Field at Williams-Brice Stadium.
I wouldn't hate it. I have to chew on it for a little while, though. Let me chew on it. All right.
Hootie and the Blowfish Field.
Oh, God. Darius Field. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like
Rucker
that.
Field.
Rucker Field, I don't hate it as much. Diesel, coming up next. Yesterday, you and I briefly touched on it. The college football top 25 from USA Today came out. I ask you the question next. Which of these teams in the top 25 will be in the final top 25? Well, we don't play on Wire to Wire, the new fantasy league that's titled Wire to Wire. It's already halfway full, actually over halfway full. You Tolos aren't messing around. We know that we have a little bit different audience in the 6 o'clock hour here in the final hour of the program. If you want to join the Wire to Wire Fantasy Football League, you can do so. Text into the show, and I will respond to your text with the link to join. It's also on my Twitter page. You can find it there, but already over halfway full. Diesel, we may have to put something on the line, some kind of little carrot to dangle for those Tolos that if they can beat me, right? If they can beat me in fantasy football. But that's not going to happen.
That's all they got to do is beat you?
That means you got to win.
Oh, you're going to just draft the entire Dallas Cowboys team and flame out in the playoffs.
Oh, burned. That burned. That literally burned. That's tough. But I'm going to stay away. I know better. Not this year. Maybe CeeDee Lamb. Maybe that's it. All right, Diesel. Speaking of the burning question. You and I yesterday very briefly discussed the college football top 25 USA Today poll. And I know, you know, our Tolos know, everybody knows. Preseason polls, well, they're just that. They're preseason polls, right?
And we don't even know if the coaches who are supposedly participating in these polls are actually participating in the polls. We don't know.
We don't know anything.
If they are attempting to pump up teams on their schedule.
Right.
To make themselves look a little bit better.
You never know.
The coaches poll is such a free-for-all. Everybody just assumes it's like an assistant or a linebackers coach who's actually the one submitting the vote because we just don't know.
Could be me and you. We did vote in the did you vote in the ACC?
I did.
I did too. On a plane. I was like, oh crap, I forgot. So I did it. You know, there were some safeties.
Georgia Tech's going to win this thing.
Oh, yeah, that's what I did. I was the one. No, I'm kidding. But the question is, of this magnificent top 25 USA coaches poll, Diesel, I do think for the most part, for the majority, these are the right teams that deserve to be in the top 25 and at the end of the season will be there. But I want to go down this list and I want to start bottom to top. I want to find out from you as well as our Tolos, 71307, text FAN before you send your message. Phone lines also open right now, 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Which of these teams will be in the final top 25 when it's all said and done? I want to start at the bottom because I think that's where it's a little more interesting, right? It'd be boring if we started with Ohio State. Yeah, Georgia, right? Everybody knows they're going to be there. But do you, Diesel, believe that when it's all said and done, that Iowa will be in the top 25 in 2024? I'll pull up their schedule, by the way.
Iowa sitting at 25 in the preseason AP poll.
Yep. Let me tell you the tough ones on the schedule.
They can't score a touchdown to save their lives.
Iowa has, if you look at the schedule, they got Illinois State, gimme, Iowa State, Troy, Minnesota, Ohio State, that's a loss, Washington, loss, Michigan State, probably a loss. We'll see.
I don't know. Michigan State's
They're
so
not
up and
good.
down.
Yeah. Northwestern, Wisconsin, UCLA, Maryland, and Nebraska. And if they make the Big Ten championship, which they won't, that'll be on December 7th.
I think Iowa probably, just quick thought on Iowa, probably is a 7 or 8 win team at best.
So I say Iowa gets the boot. Iowa will not be in the top 25. I do not think they'll finish inside that top 25 poll. I think they'll lose too many. I think they'll lose to UCLA, maybe Nebraska, maybe Maryland, Northwestern, maybe Washington for sure, Ohio State. There's just too many what ifs for me. I'll go Iowa, getting the boot. You say boot, or are you keeping them in?
I say they stay in.
Okay.
If they get 8 wins, I think, let me look. 2023.
I can backtrack.
Trying to find the 2023 AP rankings.
They were 10-4 last year.
They were 10-4 last year. And to stay inside the top 25 as a Power 5 team, so they finished the season. Is that right? They finished the season last year at 24. And it's tough to say.
They got walloped last year in the Cheez-It Bowl by Tennessee, 35-0. So they'll be a borderline bubble team.
They were 10-4 team and finished 24th. Kansas at 23 finished with 9 wins. NC State at 21 finished with 9 wins. Clemson finished with 9 wins. So to stay inside the top 25 as a Power 5 team, especially coming out of the Big Ten, you're probably looking at you're looking. I mean, God, you're looking at a 9-win team. Do I believe Iowa's going to win 9 games off of that schedule? That's tough. No, I don't think they stay in. I don't think they stay in.
I don't either. I agree with you on that one. I don't think they do. 24 is interesting, and I'm not going to go through every single one, bore you to death. But 24 is the one we've already talked about today. Old Kansas, the old Jayhawks. At 24, Diesel, I do believe when the season's all said and done, I do believe that Kansas will be in the top 25. I think they'll have a good year if Jalen Daniels stays healthy, right? Because he hasn't yet. But if he does, I do think Kansas will be a top 20 team when it's all said and done. I'm high on Kansas.
Yeah, I like Jalen. What was his last name?
Daniels. You get him confused with
Jalen Daniels.
It's a D and a L.
I think Jalen Daniels is a solid quarterback, and he's going to have himself a good senior year at Kansas. He's going to want to go out on top. I don't think Jalen Daniels is necessarily going to be some sort of majorly hyped NFL prospect. I don't think there's a chance of that, really. So
he'd have to have a heck of a year.
Yeah, he would. He would. He'd have to really play his way into first-round conversation, and I don't know that he's got the schedule to do that. I don't know that he's going to put up the yards. When you look at his last full season, we looked at it before, about 2,000 passing yards. That's good. I mean, you could certainly see yourself as a 4th or 5th round guy at that point. Kansas, I think, can hang around and be a good football team this year and probably finish right around that 20 mark. I like it.
I do too. I do as well. One that's very intriguing. We talked about this. I believe we were at an Ingles, which we'll be at tomorrow, by the way. Gear Highway and Travelers Rest. If you're over in the TR area, come see Diesel and I tomorrow. And you stop by. If you get these clues right, you can enter for a chance to win a $25 gift card. We talked about old Lincoln Riley a few weeks back, Diesel. 2024 USC. Pretty tough schedule, starting out with LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, Washington, UCLA, Notre Dame. This one, to me, this one's tricky because we talked about Lincoln Riley being on potentially the hot seat when the season's done. And Paul Feinbaum, remember, he was very upset. Well, then said he's been a bust and all. USC's a tricky one. They have in my opinion, a pretty tough schedule. At 23 to start the season, I could see, and tell me if you agree or disagree here, I could see USC finishing around 25, if not 25, when the season's all said and done. I just don't, and again, could be wrong here, but I just do not see them finishing a lot higher with that schedule than 25.
USC is going to have a welcome to football moment this year. They're going to realize playing in the Big Ten, playing with much better competition, that they are not roster-wise where they need to be. New quarterback, going into a new conference. I think USC is going to be one of those teams that struggles, and they're going to start with a really, really tough stretch. Not to mention your out-of-conference foes include an SEC team on a neutral site field. Like LSU is going to mop the floor with Southern Cal. It's going to be ugly. So I think USC is one of those teams that probably falls outside of the top.
Oh, wow. 25. You think so?
Yeah, I'm going to say they fall all the way out. I don't know that they'll fall all the way out of like the others receiving votes category, but I think they're all the way out.
Surprisingly, I I don't hate that. I could see that happening. I really do want to be high. No promo, by the way.
Promo.
We've had like 6 this week.
Cue the Bob Marley.
No kidding. Snoop Dogg. I do want to be high on Lincoln Riley. I really, really do.
Smoke weed every day.
He's the best. I cannot do it with Lincoln until he shows me, like, I'm not saying he'd have to go to Las Vegas, Nevada and beat LSU on September 1st, but he's got to prove it. Like, we talked about it. Lincoln Riley's now in prove it mode. And I don't know how long that leash is, but I think it's getting shorter and shorter for Lincoln, and he's got to prove it this year. And I cannot buy into the Lincoln Riley hype until I see it for myself.
Lincoln Riley was brought in to really bring that program back to the OG Pete Carroll days.
Sure. And they ain't nowhere close.
Depending on what preseason poll you're looking at, they're in the 20s. I mean, that's not good enough if you're Southern Cal. You're sitting behind Kansas State and Utah and Missouri, programs that you feel like you should be better than, and you should be better than those teams. But you can't get over that hump. I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously it's defense, but yeah, I'm not high on Southern Cal this year. I think they're going to be one of those teams that does not thrive in their new conference, at least for a little while.
It's going to be a learning curve. Let's visit the next one down, coming in at 22. This one's intriguing because I think that 22 spot, I think that pretty accurately, Diesel, describes how I feel about Dave Doran and North Carolina State heading into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I like North Carolina State in terms of the staff, the talent. They've been good the last few years. They've been consistent enough to be a borderline bubble team that can pull off some upsets, right? And are they going to be the team this year that, beats Tennessee and beats Clemson and finds themselves in the top 15 or top 12 and gets into the playoff? I don't know. However, it is hard for me to leave NC State out of the top 25 when it's all said and done, because as we talked about, I believe it was yesterday, NC State's toughest games are Tennessee and Clemson. Yeah, they have Duke and Georgia Tech and UNC. But other than that, those are it. That's it. So I do think that North Carolina State has a good chance of moving up from 23 and potentially ending around 15, 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if one of those or if both losing to Tennessee and Clemson will knock them out of the top 25.
Yeah, I mean, they were a good team last year. They won 9 games last year. They bring back a decent number of starters. They bring back 13 guys. Now they're going to have a new quarterback, Grayson McCall. We'll have to find out, what's his injury status? Can he hold up? Can he perform in a new conference with better players around him and better defenses coming at him?
Yeah.
That's going to be the big question. This is a show me team that I think may need a couple of weeks to get things going.
And the problem is they can't. They can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, they could get smacked by Tennessee in week 2 in the Dukes Mayo Classic, and the college football punditry could just write them off.
Right. Because you said it yesterday. After Clemson, NIU, Wake, Syracuse, Cal.
Yeah.
Stanford.
They don't have any opportunities. Mm-mm. And if Clemson gets smacked by Georgia in week 1, and then NC State turns around and wins on the road at Clemson, is the college football punditry going to look at that and say, wow, what an incredible win by the Wolfpack?
No, they're not. And you said yesterday, we talked about it. Those 2 games, if Clemson was later, like if Clemson was November 9th instead of Duke, they might be able to sneak back in.
Right.
Because it'd be late in the year, and a win over Clemson late in the year would get you in the playoff. long as you only have one loss.
Yeah, because
But, man.
beating North Carolina on the road is not going to mean anything to anybody. Beating Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd in Atlanta is not going to mean anything to anybody. So they just don't have opportunities. They have to beat Tennessee to be taken seriously this season.
And what a tall task, right? For Grayson McCall.
Yep.
First game Western, I think that'll be a good warm-up, good tune-up game. But then the next week, Bank of America, bam. We need to get credentials for that game, by the way.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one to go to an hour away. Are you kidding me? Tennessee versus NC State. In Charlotte, Bank of America, it'd be a great game.
You don't have to twist my arm.
September 7th with some mayo. Don't that twist my arm with some mayo for the.
You know they give away free mayo in the press box, right?
Oh, that's even more reason to go.
Free Dukes, baby.
Take our corn.
Free Dukes.
Take our grilled corn, baby. Diesel would not. He would not.
Could you imagine watching Cole Bryson just pull an ear of corn that's wrapped up in tinfoil out of his laptop bag and just dunk it in the tube of mayonnaise?
Now it's got to happen.
Oh, God.
It's got to happen. We've got to go. What are these guys doing here with corn in their book bag, y'all? What are they doing?
Their book bag. What is this, high school?
Yes.
Their JanSport?
Yeah. Oh, God, that'd be terrible. Looking at the top 25 before we run, because we have Gary, a replay. I cannot get his last name in my brain. Gary Stoken of the Peach Bowl. There I go, lie again. Is that right? Did I say it right?
You're right. Yeah.
Okay, good.
The Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
Thought I
CEO,
misspoke.
President and CEO of the Chick-fil-A.
Thought I
Peach Bowl.
misspoke again.
Peach Bowl
Any other top 25 teams? We talked about NC State, USC, Kansas, and Iowa. Is there any that are kind of that 12 to 22, 23 that would just have to have a bad season? Because it ain't happening to LSU. But I mean a bad season. And all of a sudden drop out of maybe at Kansas State, Diesel, maybe at Oklahoma State.
Well, Kansas State would be one of those teams to me that the committee wants to drop out. I mean, they put them there because there's preseason hype on them. They came out of a good season, but Kansas State is a perpetual show me program, right? So Kansas State could, let me pull up their football schedule.
They don't have one.
Well, it is the Big 12 after all.
That's what I'm saying.
But the Kansas State football schedule, I mean, I'm pulling them up right here. Where is it? Gosh, gonna make this so hard to find.
I'm gonna make it even better.
Oh, good. And our Wi-Fi has just died on us. So they got UT Martin, Tulane, Arizona, BYU, Oklahoma State to start the season. I mean, they don't play a bad schedule. They don't play an easy schedule by any means. I mean, Tulane's a solid football program, and they may struggle, and they're going on the road at Tulane.
Yeah.
How is it that Big 12 schools are still playing road games at Group of 5 stadiums? Meanwhile, NC State said flat out, we're not doing it anymore. The ACC told NC State not to do it.
Yeah.
So road games at G5 stadiums, A-OK in the Big 12's book, but not going to happen in the ACC's book.
That is weird. I don't know why. I don't know what the reasoning for that is. But I don't know. I couldn't see a Utah who is number 13.
Yeah.
Their schedule's is weak sauce.
What I'm really curious about, Cole, and I love your thoughts on this, when you compare, for example, because we love the guy, Kelly Ford's power ratings to start the season, compared to the AP coaches poll, the biggest difference that I see coming out of the top 10, top 20 is Oklahoma. The AP coaches have Oklahoma at 16, but Kelly has Oklahoma at 8. They got 9 out of the same top 10 teams. So there's a little shuffling here, especially when you get down to like 6 through 10. But the big difference is Oklahoma being 8 in the power ratings and Kelly's power ratings, but being 16. Like, why are the coaching staffs of America so down on Oklahoma?
It has to be the SEC. It has to.
Don't think they're built to do it.
I maybe they haven't seen enough from Venables that would make them think that them entering SEC year one, they have enough to do it. But no, that'd be the only way I could think of. I'm not saying Venables is going to go tear it up in the SEC, but it'd have to be the SEC factor.
I do think Oklahoma is less set up and ready to go for the SEC.
No, I
do think they're going to struggle, but this should be. I mean, with preseason, when you have no data on any of these teams, all you can do is look at potential and the power of the teams, the power of the rosters, and not looking at any kind of a resume. When we come back, Gary Stokan of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl Incorporated going to be joining us, man. They've done some phenomenal work over their 25 years of the Peach Bowl's existence. We had a great conversation with him about the early days of it and a lot of other stuff as well. You're going to want to hear that. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. We are pleased right now to be joined by Gary Stokan, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated. Gary, what you've accomplished at that game for that venue is nothing short of truly incredible. 22 sellouts in 25 years under your tenure as CEO and president of the Peach Bowl. Can you go back, Gary, to the early years of the Peach Bowl? What moments and matchups do you specifically remember that stand out to you as special and what really helped launch this bowl game into the premier household name that it is?
Well, there's two games that I think really established two programs that are in the top 10 on an annual basis now. One is Alabama in 2007, 2008, when we started the kickoff game. Alabama, Nick Saban was in his second season, had lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year, finished 7-6. And we started the kickoff game format. And I called Nick Saban and asked him if Alabama would like to come over and play. And he said, well, we'd definitely like to come play. You helped me when I was at LSU, because I had got LSU in 2000 when Nick was head coach there in the Peach Bowl when my committee didn't want me to. And I put my job on the line in my second year, saying that LSU would promote the bowl, they would sell tickets, et cetera, and they did. They came up and beat Georgia Tech, and LSU that year recruited the class that won the national championship in 2003. But fast forward to 2008, Nick said, yeah, you helped me then, I'll help you out now. And if we can finish second in recruiting in Georgia and first in Alabama, we'll play for national championships. Well, they came in the first Chick-fil-A kickoff game. They beat Clemson, who was top 10. They went on to the next year win the national championship after beating Virginia Tech in our Chick-fil-A kickoff game, who was ranked number 7 and Alabama was number 5. And they had 19 kids on the roster from Georgia and won the national championship. And Nick Saban would tell you that kickoff game started the Alabama dynasty that they've been on ever since. And then secondly, in 2013 in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, when the word Clemsoning was in everybody's dictionary, Clemson on 4th and 16, Taj Boyd hit Hopkins, 4th and 16, get a first down, kick a field goal to beat top 10 LSU, 13-12. And the word Clemsoning went out of the dictionary. Particularly after they beat Georgia to open the season the next year. And Dabo would tell you that's kind of when Clemson really got it rolling as well. So those two programs, Alabama and Clemson, who are two of the top, 5 programs over the last 10 years, both got really energized and started one in our kickoff game and one in our bowl game.
Gary, that was an electric atmosphere. I was at that Clemson LSU game on 4th and 16. And man, you're right. That was an incredible game. I remember it like it was yesterday. I want to ask you about the city of Atlanta. I mean, your event has now generated an economic impact of $1.2 billion and $79 million in the last few years for the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What does this mean for not just the city of Atlanta, but for the state of Georgia as a whole to have this event in that state year after year?
Well, I think that's the key. You said it. We're a Super Bowl or a Final Four or, any major big time event you may want to talk about. They come into your city and then they're gone for about 20 years. If you think about the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, we're on an annual basis, as well as our Aflac kickoff game. And so that's money every year. If you accumulate those dollars in economic impact to the city and the state, they're worth more than a Super Bowl or a Final Four, which only happens once every 20 years. So, it's been, I think more than that is that we've given $63 million to charities since 2002, which makes us the most charitable bowl organization in the country. And I think that's a big part of our mission. We were the ninth oldest bowl game, founded in 1968, but the first bowl game founded for charity purposes.
Gary Stokan, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated, joining us here on the Fan Upstate. Gary, I love it when bowls get hyper creative. I mean, it's a modern world where you have to be hyper creative to get people's attention. And I'm thinking of the Pop-Tart that sacrificed itself to be eaten last year. You might not be able to give us a sneak preview of what you've got planned for this year's game, but can you walk me through some of the outlandish ideas that have come up in meeting rooms? Hey, Gary, what if we do this? Why don't we do this wild thing?
Well, we have cows and ducks in our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and our Aflac kickoff game that make appearances. So we're either parachuting cows or we're shooting ducks out of Gatling guns, or giving helmets, old leather helmets on football coaches. So, yeah, you got to have fun doing this stuff. And we do. I mean, beyond the charity and beyond the economic impact, if you can't have fun doing what we're doing, your heart's not beating.
No doubt about it. I love that. And by the way, Gary, I enjoy shooting ducks as well. Just a little bit opposite context of what you're talking about there. But that does sound like a lot of fun. A game that we know, with us being right in the heart of Clemson country here in the upstate of South Carolina, a lot of our fans are looking forward to. What goes into picking the teams every year for these?
Yeah, it's like each one of your kids, they all have a different story. And this one was kind of interesting. I was talking to Dan Radakovich and Greg McGarity, who are the ADs respectively at Clemson and Georgia. They're no longer there, but, I talked about renewing the old 1980-81 kind of Georgia-Clemson rivalry. I go back to when I worked at Adidas. Back in the 80s, I had Clemson wearing Adidas with Barry Tuttle running into the end zone on the cover of Sports Illustrated, winning the national championship in his Adidas football cleats. And then the next year, having Herschel Walker in Georgia win the national championship in his Adidas. So it was a great rivalry back then, and they had talked about renewing it. And I said, well, why don't you do the rubber match in our kickoff game? And they were going to do a home and home. So the season worked, or the scheduling worked out where we flip-flopped it, where they're doing the first game in the Aflac kickoff game, and then they'll go home and home the next 2 years. So, that's how that one came about.
Gary, can you take your Peach Bowl hat off for just a second, set that down, and just talk to me like a college football fan? Do you believe that there are too many bowl games? And if there ever was a push to reduce the number of bowls, how would something like that actually happen? Like, what would the process be to say, hey, guess what? This bowl right here, you're axed, you're done?
Well, you have fragmentation of the bowls. You have the New Year's Six bowl games, which are now turning into the CFP quarterfinal and semifinal games, of which we're humbly proud to be a part of this year. We'll host a quarterfinal in the CFP with more than likely an ACC championship team. And then next year we'll host the semifinals. And in between, we'll host the national championship this year in Atlanta. So quite a run of games coming to Atlanta over the next year here. But there's different fragmentation of bowls. You've got 18 bowls that are owned by ESPN. Those bowls will continue because ESPN makes so much money from advertising viewership during those 2 weeks of Christmas holiday. Then you have the 6 bowls that I just mentioned in the quarters and semis. And I worry about those bowls that do a tremendous job for college football in, the Pop-Tart you mentioned, the Gator Bowl, the Music City Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, the DirecTV Bowl, the Mayo Bowl. I'm probably missing some, but those 12 maybe bowls in there, I worry that, the media and the attention could fall on the 12-team playoff and start to diminish those bowls games, which do such a great job, not only in their communities, but for charity and for players that, get the opportunity to enjoy a bowl week after a tough season.
Gary Stokan, president and CEO of Peach Bowl Incorporated, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Gary, we've touched on it briefly, but talk about the charities, because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And you guys, as you mentioned, are able to donate so much money, so many funds to those charities, and absolutely more than welcome to name the ones that you have donated to over the years. But I'm sure that that's got to be a large economic impact for them as well.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. It's part of our mission, as I mentioned earlier, to give back. We spent $13 million basically building, sustaining, and moving the College Football Hall of Fame to Atlanta back in 2010. We have $9.3 million in endowed scholarships in our John Lewis Legacy of Courage scholarships at 34 universities throughout the country for Title I kids in Atlanta and Georgia. That some of these kids are the first ones in their whole family ever to go to college. And so we provide a scholarship to them, hopefully changing the dynamics of their family for the next generation. We've given $22 million to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta to fund trials and cures to find a way to eradicate childhood cancer. Right now, we have 14 trials existing. Some are moving to phase 2 in 5 different hospitals in 4 different states. And so our goal is to get something across the goal line with FDA approval that can save a kid's life for a month, a year, or maybe a lifetime. So those are some of the main things that we're doing. We're using college football for the greater good. And this year, our Aflac kickoff game is a kickoff for a cause, where Dabo Sweeney and Kathleen Sweeney gave time to go to Prisma Hospital in Greenville there to visit kids with childhood cancer. And Kirby Smart's doing the same thing here in Atlanta at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And Aflac's made contributions to those hospitals and to the coaches' foundations for them doing that. We'll also give our 50-50 raffle money to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta in our Peach Bowl Legacy Fund to continue to fund those trials. And then we'll put $100,000 up, and Aflac will match that to go into our Peach Bowl Legacy Fund as well. So we're also going to sell T-shirts, one Clemson T-shirt and one Georgia T-shirt that were designed by cancer patients. And we're going to sell those and give that money to the Peach Bowl Legacy Fund as well. So the goal is to raise over $300,000 to continue those trials, and we're well on our way to doing that.
Gary Stokan, president of Peach Bowl Incorporated, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Gary, I want to let you know that I've done my part putting money into Chick-fil-A's pockets over the years. I have been to the restaurants many, many times. If and when you pull into a Chick-fil-A restaurant, what is your go-to menu item? What's your go-to order, and what GOAT item do you look at and say, Chick-fil-A, you really need to put that one back on the menu because it was great?
Well, I'm very basic. I'm from Pittsburgh, so what you see is what you get. I get a number 1, or I get the 4-count chicken strip meal. I do like the milkshake, so peach milkshake is special to me for all the obvious reasons. And but I will say this, I probably put on about 15 to 20 pounds of Chick-fil-A over the last 26 years. Eating there so much, but I often tell people their food is great, but their people are better. They have such great people. They've been a wonderful partner for us. We've grown together. When we first started, they came on in 1997 as the sponsor of the Peach Bowl. They're the longest title sponsor of any bowl in the country in the history of college football. And they really just were in stores with Virginia through Texas at the time. And now they're all over the country, even international now. So they've grown with us and we've grown with them, and it's been a wonderful partnership.
Gary, great stuff. We really enjoyed spending a few minutes with you and hope to do it again sometime in the future. Best of luck on all the endeavors, and we appreciate you hopping on with us.
Well, thanks for having us, guys, and we hope to see you down here and host you at the Aflac kickoff game.
We're going full throttle. Grip it and rip it, baby. Yeah.
a lot of quality wins on there. Virginia Tech would be one, NC State's on there, but there's not a whole lot that Clemson's going to be able to hang their hat on if they get run out of the building by Georgia and then struggle against Florida State.
And Joe, final word here. They are going to get run out of the building by Georgia. And you mentioned Clemson. I forgot they still play football. Is Dabo Swinney in a missing persons bulletin right now? Because they had the ACC media days, and usually Dabo controls the theater. And I don't remember a single thing he said because he's still complaining about everything that's wrong with college football while his program slips into mediocrity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mic drop, Paul. Mic drop, Paul.
He's still complaining about everything that's wrong with college football.
Man.
What was the tail end of that? And while his program slips into mediocrity.
Yeah, it's strong.
Here's
That's
the thing.
strong.
Paul ain't wrong. Paul ain't wrong. Now, Paul knows that this is the time of year that he gets new followers, right? New subscribers.
Yeah.
He says all kinds of wild and wacky and disrespectful things.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
He's get
this
off
time of
my
year.
lawn, Paul.
It's
right
talking
now.
season, right? There's play-in season, there's recruiting season, and there's talking season. We're in talking season. This is Paul Feinbaum's bread and butter. Piss everybody off.
Yep.
Watch them flock to your content because they want to see what he'll say next. Hit him with some low blows. Like, this is not new. This has always been Paul Feinbaum's thing.
Now, excuse me. I hear you. He's not wrong on them being Dabo still complain. He's not wrong on that. However, I do not know if, and I know he probably says it tongue in cheek, halfway kidding, halfway serious. The comment about, I didn't even know Clemson still played football. Like, I don't think they've fallen that far, Paul. They've fallen.
That's the part that you dismiss.
Yeah.
That's the part that you dismiss as the total BS.
As you said, that's what he does, and he's good at it, and he gets people talking about, like us, right? It's just fascinating. The national perspective is that Dabo is still talking right now, Diesel. Is still complaining right now, even while he's talking live as we speak after practice. The national perspective is he's still complaining about the portal. And NIL.
we did just have an article from Will Vandervoort, the Clemson Insider, earlier where Dabo was bemoaning the changes coming to college football. Like, he's complained about walk-ons losing their spot on these teams. He's complaining about student athletes who are about to get paid, right? They're all about to start revenue sharing here in a couple of seasons. He's complaining about that. So Paul's not wrong. Dabo should be firing up this fan base saying, we got something for Georgia, right? We got something we're going to shock you, right? But he doesn't say things like that.
Does this lead you to believe that Dabo's on his way out? Like these comments?
It leads me to believe that Dabo's got a short fuse when it comes to dealing with the changes coming to college football, and that fuse is getting shorter. I mean, I
think so too.
Especially when he says things like, man, if I was at another school, I'd be crushing it in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Well,
weird.
Why, Dabo? You don't want, why would you're starting to sound like Paul Johnson, who would never take Georgia Tech away from the triple option.
Yeah.
Why won't you? Like, at this point, if you're saying I could go somewhere else and be really good at the transfer portal and NIL, but you're saying, but I won't do that at Clemson.
Just cringy, kind of.
Yeah. I like it was Meatloaf that said, I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. Not you, Dabo. You're supposed to say, I'll do anything to win national championships. It's wire to wire.